give a hearty welcome to Dr. Wembley. Thank you so much for joining us today and joining this planning commission. And I will share a little bit of excitement for me. We have a full 7 today, and so that is super exciting for me. So welcome, please, if you'll take a moment at some time after the meeting to also welcome her yourself. So, Bobby, Mr. Tong, will you
Yes. Mr. Pendleton?
Here.
Dr. Mann?
Here.
Mr. Wells?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Dr. Whibley?
Here.
Mr. Bateman? Here. And Ms. Sutter?
I am here. Let's go ahead and get started. I know we've got some presentations and the public hearing preview. I think we're starting with Chris Whitley, our chief planner.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, commissioners, and welcome, Dr. Whibley. Good to see you.
And this is our future land use plan session for the process. And I know we mentioned this last month that we would be going over the draft plan with you all. And we're really excited to show kind of really what was months of work internally, not just with the consultants, but with our own staff here in planning. And I think what we'll go through today is how we got here, but also what the different place types mean. How we envision to use the plan internally and externally, as well as getting some comments from the commission. So looking forward to presenting it today. Before I get started on everything, I just wanted to allow Wu to introduce himself as well. Wu, feel free.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Wu Ken. I'm a principal at WRT. We are the lead planning and design consultant team that is taking on NFK 2050. And I'm really, really happy to be here and also very relieved that we delivered a draft plan document to the core team in the city of Norfolk for review at this time. And the document is nearly 400 pages long, and let me just say that is a restrained version of the work that we've done thus far.
Thank you, Wu. Appreciate it. All right, without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So I control this. Okay, perfect. So again, like I said, this is a future land use plan. This will be, I think you'll find this a lot more, I would say, digestible than the entire goals and actions of the plan. So I think we're also looking forward to going through this in a little more detail. And as planners, this is probably one of our favorite parts of the process and the plan itself, because we get to do our mapping and draw where things should go, and we get to kind of get to know the neighborhoods at a really kind of ground level. So we enjoyed putting this together. So today we're going to go through, again, like I mentioned, how we got to developing the future land use plan and the map itself. So we call the future land use plan really the entire section of the plan, so not just the map, but all of the kind of ancillary components of that, like the place types and the descriptions of how we got here and the framework and that sort of thing. Also how it interacts with other maps and how it was based on other maps as well. The map, of course, itself is the actual map, which you see. We have the big copies or big boards on the easels at both corners of the room. So if you, at any time, feel free to, if you'd like to get up and take a closer look as I'm talking, that's totally fine. And then we'll go through the place types I mentioned. Those are like the actual categories on the map, and then some next steps. So how we got to where we are now. First, we like to always talk about the structure itself of the plan and kind of the overall timeline, how we got here. So as you can see, we're in that sort of, we're in phase 3 right now, the final phase of the process, where the draft plan is really the focus of it and what we will reveal at the public open houses. The plan itself will have executive summary, kind of an overview of the process, a little bit of the existing conditions summary, some of that truncated information, our community engagement summary, so kind of the community engagement foundation and the basis for what you see in the plan. And then, of course, the pillars, the goals, and the actions, and then our future land use section, which will be separate, and then how we intend to implement all the goals and actions, so kind of the matrix, if you will. with timeframes and lead and support departments and that sort of thing. And so we're right there at the future land use. And as Wu mentioned, we have the a full draft plan that we're internally vetting and actively reviewing and editing as we speak. So really excited to get that. So I mentioned that, as planners, we love this sort of thing. And so this is a photo of a large city staff workshop we had here in our conference room. We're really at the beginning of this process, so we could kind of, we knew this was going to be very different than the current future land use map. And so, we had some ideas on where it might go, how we might use it, but we really wanted to start with just an open session with our staff to just talk about, we know we have a lot of experts here and experiences that they've had with other plans and other communities, other cities, and, so let's just start with the drawing board, just start to look at a map together and start to draw things on there and make sure that we also kind of understood where it was headed. So that was really helpful just to kind of start sketching it out, brainstorming. And then from there, we had some internal kind of smaller group work sessions as well as we went along to make sure that, we were all on the same page. So as you can imagine, it can take a lot of different turns. It's a very important part of the plan. And, like I said, we wanted to be pretty innovative with this and do it differently. So, we all, at many different points, we checked in and made sure we were all on the same page. So just a background on a future land use map. What is the future land use map? So, this is a really good breakdown of the most important components of it. Really, it's what the community intends, how the community intends to build out in the future. Most associated with the physical development and growth of the city and kind of the where that's going to happen. And it's also a tool to help make decisions about what kind of development is appropriate in those locations. So it kind of gives us that nice guidance, different kinds of development, higher level categories, but kind of where the city would see those kinds of developments, and then a little guidance on, what that might look like. So it's distinct from a zoning map in the sense that it's not, while every parcel might have, it has a designation, so to speak, or a place type, so that you can easily see kind of where you fit into that fabric of the future land use map. It is not, it does not have, of course, that same level of specificity as a zoning map would have, and the kind of the development regulations that would be associated with kind of the parcel-based zoning map. So the intent isn't for it not to look like a zoning map, and to give guidance on, to give guidance to zoning as a tool to implement what you see in the future land use map guidance. It does include land uses, though. It is intended to, help us understand what kinds of maybe primary, and you'll see primary and secondary land uses in your packets as well. So it does help us determine when things, when proposals come to us, if it's in keeping with this plan. So it is an important component of this. Also mentioned that it's envisioning the future of a place without getting into the how of that, and the how is really the zoning. That's where the zoning comes into play. In other sort of on the ground projects like streetscapes, parks, open spaces, the design of buildings, that sort of thing. That's more on the how, but they use the future land use plan as kind of that first step of the where. And then once it's adopted, this is really, there's multiple tools we can use to implement this. It's zoning, streetscape projects, different, like I mentioned, parks and open space projects, transportation, economic development, you name it. Really, this is certainly something that the entire city can use. It is not by any means limited to just the planning department. You'll find, and I know that we've talked about this before in other sessions, but Vision 2100 was probably the primary basis of this map. So knowing that this was a chance to really fully incorporate Vision 2100 and the principles of that into this kind of geographic exercise, we knew from day one that we wanted to make sure this was a foundation. So just briefly, you can see the map here on the screen and in your packet, but it's essentially the main topic I would say of the future land use map was resilience and sea level rise and flooding. So areas in green that you see here are the areas, they're called designing new urban centers. So areas that we see they're high and dry, so they're really kind of ripe for more development, more growth. They're resilient well into the future in that sense. Areas that are in red are areas that have a lot of pretty high flood risk in many cases, but there are economic engines, so they need to be protected. So really, that's you can see that very clearly where those places are. So various interventions to protect those areas. The other two are where you find most of our neighborhoods and most of our residential neighborhoods. The yellow areas are the areas where we would foresee more adaptation to rising waters and recurrent flooding. So different tools, just getting creative with different tools to make sure they're protected. But areas that we don't see a lot of higher growth or change in those areas. So, and then the purple neighborhoods or the areas are interesting. They're also established neighborhoods, very stable neighborhoods, in many cases historic neighborhoods, but they actually have a lot less flood risk. So we call them neighborhoods of the future. So those are areas that you'll see in the map too, that we tried to really focus what you see in the future land use map on for sort of newer growth or investments in the green areas and in some cases the purple areas as well. We also wanted to incorporate our character district map, which I know you all are very familiar with this. No need to reinvent the wheel in many cases with this. The character district, that's something that we have in the current comprehensive plan offer 2030. It's been part of our DNA for a long time. It's in our zoning ordinance. We use it for all kinds of development regulations, building form, parking requirements, that sort of thing. So it's already, everyone internally and externally really understands the character district, so we wanted to build on those as well. So you'll see in the draft map and some of our other slides that we've got some place types called sustain that are really built off of these character districts in a direct way. And then I'll just mention the downtown character district. That's what we call a regional activity center. So we'll get into that in just a few slides. But while it's a character district, we actually have a place type that covers that area more specifically. So. And so how we got to deciding on the place type. So in general, just a place type, you'll see a lot of comprehensive plans with this terminology, a lot of modern plans with this terminology. And it sort of recognizes that each place type, they're a way of thinking more about the urban form and character of a place rather than just land use. So land use is obviously a very important part of this. It's a required part of this, but and you'll see our kind of newer approach to that as well. But this is our really good chance to also talk about the character and form of the area. Also mobility, some of these considerations as you look at different corridors and different districts that the place types cover. And so you'll see that they're not the place types aren't aligned with a specific zoning district or anything like that. They can really be fulfilled or realized with multiple zoning districts. That's sort of the idea with future land use map categories. So the map itself. So you can see the physical copies here. You also have a 11 by 17 copy at your seats, and here on the screen. So we're gonna go. So I wanted to give you a preview of this. We're gonna go through the place types here next, but we can always come back to this. And like I mentioned, if I wanted to. We wanted to have these kind of physical copies here too as well to make it a little bit more interactive. If anyone wanted to, come up and point at anything or suggest anything, we're more than happy to, take some notes on the maps here as well. So, but this is where all the hard work and internal discussions led to, and also it's really based off of I think a lot of the community engagement as well, and so kind of. This, I think, tells a story, too, in a lot of ways of where we see growth, where there's existing growth, existing activity in the city. It's sort of a balance between trying to capture a lot of the existing economic activity, a lot of these mixed-use districts that you see currently that have, in a lot of ways, been kind of organic throughout history. Some of them were, had more zoning interventions to kind of help spur things, but a lot of them are organic places that evolved over time with a mixture of uses. So trying to recognize those areas, but also show, based on Vision 2100 and our character districts and other things, where we foresee new development occurring. So it's very resilient, but also recognizes the kind of building off of these other efforts that have been going on, different corridor studies and that kind of thing as well. So getting into the place type, the first thing is we'll have this matrix. This always works well for us in the zoning ordinance. So we wanted to have some sort of matrix to put it all together. So the place types you'll see on the left side, and then the typical land use, as we're calling them, on the at the top there. So rather than go through like every single zoning district, it covers I think kind of the major categories that would help us and help someone on the outside determine if what they want to do at a certain location is in keeping with that place type. So that's our kind of master matrix, if you will. And the primary and secondary use, the way we're sort of interpreting that is, if there's a primary use that's in one of these place types, it's basically it's always okay to do that there. It's kind of our interpretation of that. It's just something that's there or that already in a lot of cases, but also if these place types want to accommodate that in the future, that's appropriate. Secondary uses are uses that might be okay there. It might take a little bit more analysis. So, we have a lot of conditional use permit requirements for districts across the city, and I think a lot of these uses for those place types, when you get down to that parcel level, you'll see a lot of CUP or conditional use permit processes that they have to go through. So that's our way of capturing. It might be okay. We don't want to preclude anything. Not make it too rigid. Operate like a zoning map where certain things just are separated out. A good example is institutional uses in neighborhoods. We know there's a mixture there all across the city. So we're trying to combine a lot of districts together and make it a little more flexible. So now for the place types themselves. So our first one is community mixed use. So this is a really interesting one. And actually I'll mention, before we get into each place type, I want to mention that, how might we use this a little bit more specifically. So I mentioned on the staff level, we already, we use the future land use map as you see in your current applications and staff reports. But so we would foresee a similar process, but really trying to insert this into our pre-application processes, maybe even our applications. We'll kind of workshop how it best fits, but really just trying to make sure that it's sort of part of that flow chart, part of that process workflow. So, and that goes for external actors as well. So it's really helpful, I think, for the private side because it can really kind of inspire them to see opportunities, where they might want to locate projects and ideas around the city. Like I said, this kind of tells a nice story. You can very clearly see where the corridors and things like that are. And then ideally they would consult the future land use plan in general, not just the map, to understand kind of the vision for land use and form and mobility and character and that kind of thing. And then they would then turn to the zoning ordinance for the specific regulations. So the first one being community mixed use. And I think these all you'll find all of these I think work really well for a built-out city like Norfolk. Really one of the big themes you'll see in this is that it sort of recognizes that there's a sort of a mixture of different land uses in a lot of places in the city, and so it kind of I think just that's the first step is recognizing that there is this kind of fluidity to some of these areas and different uses historically that have been in places that have really thrived and been successful, even if it's not the predominant land use. And then also, I think just the place type approach is really conducive to built-out cities or mature cities because it focuses a little bit more on that form and character rather than just land use. So kind of what's sort of been working historically in that city. And as you all know, the zoning ordinance has a lot of form-based regulations and requirements as well. So I think it really lends itself well to the implementation tool that we have with the zoning ordinance. So the community mixed use is kind of our area where it's key points for social and economic interactions, and it provides residents with access to daily needs. Very walkable, connected, bikeable, kind of see these as like places for gradual transformation while maintaining that urban character and the identity that you see there. You can begin to see in the map, each place type has a corresponding, the graphics you see here on the left shows you exactly where just those place types are around the city. And then as well as the kind of just a rendering, a sketch of what that might look like. So in the urban form, kind of, again, additional design guidance, especially for new development. These are areas that, would accommodate middle and kind of gentle density integrated with retail and other non-residential uses, neighborhood businesses, community services, that type of thing. Again, character would blend in really seamlessly with the surrounding neighborhoods. And as you look at the map, you can already kind of see, those districts that we've marked here. And I think everyone here knows the city very well. So I'm sure you can start to imagine what those places look like and how that really kind of blends itself well to this, not just the name of this place type, but what I'm describing here with the character. Kind of moderate density, as much as we can, active facades, ground floor uses. Also, as far as mobility goes, very multimodal. We see these also as being connectors between kind of our major anchors around the city, whether that's, employment or cultural anchors, economic anchors, and more intense place types. So, you can kind of see as we go, in a lot of cases, these are they become sort of part of this network of a little bit more higher intensity place types. So they provide nice buffers and kind of gradual transitions. Next one is corridor mixed use. So this one is, so we're kind of moving up, so to speak, up the ladder of intensity. So corridor mixed uses are areas where really it's going to support TOD development pretty primarily. Also, you'll see that a lot of this and a couple of other ones that you'll see, we really want to have existing and kind of future planning efforts in mind as we were developing this. One of the big ones being the Naval Station Norfolk Transit Corridor project to the naval base. So extending high capacity transit from the military circle area up to the naval base. So you'll see kind of that how that lends itself well to that ongoing study. These are vibrant, economically active places where it kind of balances growth with existing businesses and residents as well, because you'll see a lot of these corridors have neighborhoods, of course, adjacent to them. So, built-in kind of character guidance on, making sure that there's, maybe a step down if there's adjacent residential, so that there's appropriate context in these corridors as you get for a little bit further away from the main road or the main arterial. So again, that gradual and kind of transition between high density and gentle density. Character, really pretty dynamic here, mixture of uses, medium to high density, especially around these transit nodes that could arise in the future. They're more compact and walkable, active street presence. So similar to community mixed use in a lot of ways, but a step above, I would say, in terms of the maybe the mixture of uses and the intensity of the uses. And again, same kind of theme with mobility, with very walkable and bikeable, and they connect residents to the different services and sort of commercial areas and employment opportunities. The Regional Activity Center, I mentioned this a little, just briefly before. These are our areas, these are the major economic and social hubs for the region. So, of course, I think it comes as no surprise the downtown is part of that. And then, of course, our future planning over at Military Circle, which, there have been previous planning efforts to kind of designate both Military Circle and Ward's Corner as these kind of more urban development areas. And we really saw this place type as being a way to really capture them all. And you can see in the main map how I mentioned, it kind of works as a nice system with the corridors and the community mixed use, and it really kind of plays well together with feeding into these regional activity centers. And so these are, as you can imagine, these are our kind of mixed use, vibrant, as mixed use as possible, vibrant areas of the city that are really going to be transit oriented, of course, with the existing light rail line, but also, like I mentioned, some future planning that could occur especially between Military Circle and Ward's Corner. A pretty dynamic lifestyle, day and night type of activities and uses, entertainment, higher kind of densities, public plazas. Though these are also areas that we want to have public promenades, public plazas, public spaces, and kind of these regional cultural destinations as well. So it kind of blends all of those things together in ways that attract both local and also regional visitors. So the next one is interesting. This is a very new approach for us compared to the way we currently do it, and it is something that's we've seen in other cities as well. But we're calling this one innovation and production, and so this is really the best way to think about this is it really combines a lot of what you may be familiar with institutional, industrial, kind of campus type of zoning districts and the current future land use designations. So areas, it sort of includes that range of manufacturing, campus, and industrial type uses. Really, we thought combining them into a single place type made the most sense for us. It kind of speaks to these like emerging blurred lines between things like clean manufacturing, biotech campuses, college campuses, innovation districts, all these different things that really need that kind of conglomeration of activity and lots of space. And they also could include secondary or more complementary uses like retail, commercial, different things like for the workers to access while they're there, so that there's a little bit more of a internal system there and a mixture of uses as well. So it's research, production, kind of that economic activity that comes along with that in a centralized hub. And a lot of these places you'll probably notice that a lot of our existing industrial and business office parks are included here, as well as our college campuses. The naval base is also in here. Our shipyards are also part of that. So just kind of recognizing, I think this is a nice, it clearly shows where if there was ever a new use that kind of within this kind of range that I'm talking about, I think this map would really help talk about, where those locations might be appropriate. And I'll also mention in this same vein that, recognizing again the more of the blurred lines that we're seeing, with like modern manufacturing or lighter industrial uses, in a lot of cases those fit very well into like the community mixed use place type or maybe even corridor mixed use place type. So you'll see that, we've kind of marked those as like secondary uses, the lighter industrial, to kind of blend those into the different place types, because I think we all know a lot of examples of a lighter scale manufacturing uses that have contributed very well to these different districts and neighborhoods. So really, instead of having an industrial category, really trying to kind of mix it a little bit more into the different place types and recognize that some of those blurred lines, and then focus more on form and character. The next this one's pretty self-explanatory. I think the next a few are actually, but transportation and logistics, we really had to have one that was separate for things like the port, the airport, kind of these large industrial terminals. And this is really where, large-scale freight movement, warehousing, distribution, but it might also have some supporting uses like office and maybe some small-scale retail to support those industries. So, heavy goods movement, freight efficiency. So it's not really as pedestrian focused as the other districts are, but again, this is of course more related to that major operation of those industries and of those terminals. So, but there might be some internal. I think it's important to emphasize the importance of the internal mobility within those sites so that you can get around within the complex. And the next couple will be pretty quick. Again, I think these are pretty straightforward. We've got our open space, which of course, is a huge part of our green infrastructure network. And I'll just note that, these would also include some, again, these kind of supporting ancillary uses like programmatic uses that are non-residential, kind of programmatic uses that might happen in here, like events that happen in open spaces, maybe some office and something that operationally kind of supports that open space. And these are like on the map you'll see this isn't intended to capture every single park in the city, even if neighborhood kind of smaller pocket parks. These are sort of designated the larger scale ones, and then we've incorporated. You'll see in the sustained categories here soon. the sort of open space, the smaller open spaces that you see that are really, really important to the neighborhood fabric are sort of included within those. So this, again, recognizing that kind of mixture of different uses that we have in our neighborhoods. Conservation is exactly what you think. Our wetlands, shorelines, living shorelines, environmentally sensitive areas that we did want to make sure were designated so they had some sort of future protection like that. So the next few, I'm going to give just an overall kind of description of what sustain means first, and then we can kind of go through them. This is another thing that you see in a lot of other cities too with modern future land use plans is trying to, especially for built-out cities like Norfolk, trying to come up with a future land use plan that recognizes that recognizes the built-out nature of the city and but also knows how to balance the primarily residential character of these areas with some potential incremental change over time and making sure things are still in context with the existing areas. So that's what we've come up with here is directly built on the character districts. So we've got traditional, coastal, and suburban. Again, downtown is covered in the regional activity center place type. But our approach with this was that sustained areas, again, are kind of smaller incremental changes over time. Again, the character districts as the basis, really the framework of that. They're primarily residential. These are in those character districts. Anything that wasn't already designated as one of those other districts I talked about is basically going to be in the sustained categories. And really, the idea is to look to the surrounding context, especially for a developer or somebody wants an applicant. Look at your character district, any overlay zoning that's in the area, pattern books. Use all of those tools for guidance here on that site level. And so it's really pointing towards working with the neighborhoods in those areas for conformance and for kind of their appetite on what you'd like to do, what they're comfortable with, and just trying to leave it to a lot of the existing protections and the existing guidance that we have. So this made a lot of sense to us to start to blend it all together for these areas and recognize this. And this traditional is a good example of kind of the existing mixture of the uses you've seen there for a long time, just not having the future land use map operate like a zoning map where somebody would come in and have to change the designation of that parcel because maybe the parcel says institutional or something and not multifamily. So trying to just take it a step above to recognize the mixture and kind of the level that we want to achieve with this and the right guidance we want. So that's traditional in the traditional character district. Suburban, of course, everywhere in the suburban character district that was not already covered by one of the other place types. So you can kind of begin to see kind of what that looks like and where those pockets are. And then, of course, coastal character district. And very similar to traditional in a lot of ways. In many cases, a similar mixture of uses there. But yeah, same general guidance on keep to the character, the context of the area. There is in your package there we will have the primary and secondary land use kind of guidance at each of these place types. So I showed you the master kind of matrix at the beginning. Each place type will have its own descriptions and guidance, and then the primary and secondary uses that are appropriate. So that's where you kind of see some of those little nuanced differences between the primary and secondary uses and the sustained place types especially. And then we want to also mention that, so in Plan for 2030, we already have these areas we call transit supportive areas. So they were built, as you can imagine, they were developed around the existing light rail stations to kind of recognize that these are areas that, of course, TOD would be appropriate, encourages some higher densities or TOD development, again, depending on the proposal. But generally speaking, these areas should support additional uses centered around those transit stops. Mix of residential and employment, amenities, supportive community service uses. And also this will actually have a separate primary and secondary land use description for this as well. So it'll kind of operate like a place type, and it'll be on the main map in its final form. And the idea is it really supersedes any underlying place type. So if you're in an area, with another sort of base place type, if you will, but it's also a transit supportive area, that's where we're going to need a little bit more. We're going to need to look at it a little bit more closely and see what uses the future land use plan says are appropriate in those areas. So it just adds a little extra layer to a layer of guidance in those areas. And then finally, our last element of the future land use map in the plan are what we're calling planning focus areas. So these areas are kind of, the best way to describe it is, we wanted a way to designate areas of the city that have clear ongoing planning efforts. So you'll see obviously with the greater St. Paul's area and Military Circle area. So kind of recognizing some of these larger scale existing planning efforts that are going on that we want to keep building on and contribute to. But also try to identify where our shorter term planning priorities are going to be in terms of community plans or area plans. And so we add Southside to that as well. Trying to really give us the clear guidance on what the next planning effort is. So we thought calling them out, it's not a place type or anything like that. It doesn't have any prescribed set of land uses or anything like that. But as a result of those studies and planning efforts, that's when we could potentially change some of the place types in those areas, depending on the results of those efforts and the community engagement. So just wanted to have a way of calling these areas out specifically. And I believe, so we wanted to include, this may look familiar from your last meeting when Mel presented on the Maury High School. This is the exact slide they used. We just wanted to show you all. I think this really resonated with a lot of us, and it's kind of a good example of what we have sort of wanted to do with this plan too, in terms of creating kind of like a scorecard, if you will, rubric, where something simple, very much like this, where both staff and an external applicant, so to speak, we could give them something and they could see if their project meets the different goals in each of the pillars. So just an example that we are, our intent is to develop something similar to this to kind of help insert the comp plan really into our, not just internal, but external development or sort of project idea phases and processes. So just wanted to, show that as well and let you know that we are planning on incorporating something like that.
That are in the columns and the 5 goals for each pillar that are in the rows? Or are those the same?
They're just articulated that way. So you can see the description in the bullet point.
Okay. But you'll never have something in goal 1, column goal 1, row goal 4. Column goal 1 is always going to correspond to a goal 1.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that
Because we have 5 goals in some of the pillars and 4 goals in some of the others. So I think it was also their way of kind of showing each, kind of completing the set of potential goals that it would meet. So, but yeah, ours would look a little bit different depending on, exactly how we want to use it. But I think this is a good snapshot of kind of the simplified. I think we really want to get at this. Like, what's an easy way to check off, like, the goal, And we were even talking about something similar with, like, the primary and secondary uses. It could be, a full circle or whatever the symbol is, you fully meet this goal or this pillar. And then maybe an open one is we meet some of it, maybe not everything in there, but we are meeting part of that. So just, again, another visual to try to tie things to the comp plans, the principles and the goals of the comp plan. Yep. Perfect.
I like it. I'm a visual person, so this is helpful. I know in previous presentations, we'll say that this, is within, in 2030.
Yep.
Something, and that's helpful, but I think seeing this, even if it's, maybe darkened, is lease it in full, maybe partial if it's partial, and then completely empty if it doesn't at all.
Right.
But all that to be said, I think this is, for me anyway, is easily digestible and helpful in decision making.
Absolutely. Yeah.
This, Madam Chair,
No,
well, we saw this, we saw the reaction of the planning commission when we saw this. We fully believe that this is something the applicant should be filling out because they need to explain to the commission in their land use application. We already pick it apart anyway, and can tell you what things we believe it doesn't meet, but I think it's important for the applicant to understand how they meet your goals, which I think, as you asked, requested from the team for the Moore High School build to kind of figure out how to show that. So we're not sure how this is gonna work yet. We like the idea. We're not trying to make it more difficult for someone to make a land use application, but we want them to at least be knowledgeable, and not just think there's just a rubber stamp. So
I think if we're gonna have applicants fill this out, Adam's question is correct, because it requires some interpretation.
I think just one column with an indicator in it is all that's needed, right? To
Yeah.
say you did it or you didn't. Or I like the idea of a partial,
Yeah.
you know, perhaps it's a line drawn through it,
Right.
half shaded.
Yep.
That
It could be
indicates
like
they
really one
did
column.
try.
Yeah. Yes.
I think
Absolutely.
it spells out to the applicant, this is our intention. 'Cause I think that folks apply because they have a great idea, and it might be, but maybe not in this particular district.
Right.
You know, so
Yeah.
it's not like we're poo-pooing your great idea, it may not work right here. So I feel like it might spell that out clearer.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Situations.
Great one.
Yes, very good.
Yeah. And then just a quick next steps, just to give you an update on that. As we mentioned, the consultants delivered the full draft team to us last week on Friday, and so our internal review is underway, and we're actively making our comments and edits and things, and we're sending it to other departments as well to make sure that they can see they're clear on the actions and things like that. And then we have as in the next slide we mentioned the public open houses for phase 3, this final phase. This is, as with every phase, we sort of, that's our kickoff. Our public engagement kickoff is always with the in-person open houses. So we have 4 this time, and they're all from 5 to 7. And the first being at Jordan Newby Library on June 3rd. We also, what we wanted to do was offer a window there from 2 to 4 p.m. for our Planning Commissioners Advisory Committee and working groups if they'd like to, get a little a preview of what the open house looks like, and give them a chance to convene and talk and give us our input a little bit early. But and understandably, if that time doesn't work out, every open house has the same material, so whatever is most convenient for you all. And then, of course, if you are unable to make any of them, you can always contact us and let us know if you have any comments. We'll also have 3 more after that: Southside Boys and Girls Club, Pretlow Library, and YMCA on Granby. And following these open houses, we'll have opportunities, as we always do, with an online engagement opportunity. So really, it would be the draft plan online, and you could sort of comment on that just directly. And then we'll have we're working with our engagement task force on developing materials for some sort of Dropbox locations around the city where we'd have the full draft plan available for anyone to stop by, and think sort of libraries and places like that where someone can come by and look at it at their leisure and make comments and put it in a Dropbox. So those will be in tandem, kind of parallel efforts after the conclusion of all the open houses. With that, any questions? Yeah.
This is outstanding. You did a phenomenal job. I'm just curious, because we have a neon district, we have an arts community district. I'm surprised we didn't see something articulated in here that talks about artist housing, artist studios, artists, because many urban redeveloped cities have started with an area that was of decay, put arts in there, and it's expanded and it turned into restaurants and housing and everything else.
Mhm.
We have it in the neon district. I'm just, something we're thinking about, or
I think I know in our some of our actions and strategies, we have some kind of call outs for trying to support some of the makers and artists, and trying to target that in certain areas. And so I think right now, as far as the future land use map goes, I think it gets kind of combined with our regional that particular district with our regional activity center. But and I know that the zoning, our zoning ordinance has done a good job of kind of encouraging those uses, especially in the neon district, recognizing that a little bit as a specific area for a mixture of uses like that. But we could look at, if there's some language maybe in the future land use plan to kind of more intentionally call that out, we can certainly,
It almost warrants its own,
yeah.
those type.
Yes.
Or like the open space, it could be.
Yeah, because you've articulated so many wonderful place types, but the artist community is to me, where we miss it.
Mr. Walls, I think Mr. Todd
Bobby,
wants to
yeah.
speak to that.
So the hard part is that, I'll use a Lenny Newcomb analogy for everybody, right? We can zone for oil, but doesn't mean we're gonna strike oil, right? And so the hard part is that we've always come along beside people that have come up with the idea, and we've tried to remove barriers for them, right? So we can't just say we're gonna we can, but it would be hard to move forward without support from a community to say this is gonna be the next arts district we focus in on. But they don't buy into it, they wanna go somewhere else, right? And so what we tend to do is we try to remove barriers. So, and we've said this previously, all the pedestrian commercial overlays, 21st Street, Collie Avenue, the Neon District, when we did the work, there was a swell of support. We tried to put regulations that got out of the way and helped encourage that use, rather than us kind of edicting, this is the next great thing in the next great area, if that makes sense. So we're trying to be careful. That's why the future land use map is just a little bit higher than honing in on that. But as Chris said, the language, if we need to hone in on that and spell that out, we can probably do that and focus. Because I do, as Chris said, there are goals and actions that go directly towards that discussion. So.
And I'll just add, Mr. Wells, that, and I forget which work group it was in, but we did talk extensively about supporting the arts community. And I recall one idea was to maybe even implement an artist in residence program or something like that. So that community has not been left out of the 400-page plan.
Right.
But for something like super high level, looking at this map, it might be a little too granular to make that kind of distinguished decision, if that makes sense. That might have been clear as mud. Is that okay?
It makes sense, I just don't necessarily agree. I just think I've watched many cities develop a particular interest around the arts that have turned the city around. From Soho to Pittsburgh to many of the major cities that have gone through what we're going through. And we have the Neon District, we have it. But as Bobby points out, Artists in Residence is a wonderful program, it's a wonderful way of doing it, encouraging artists to have a studio where they live work, and it starts to take on its own, and it really has a tremendous effect on restaurants and everything else in that area. Just
Dr. Bain?
Mhm. Yes, yeah.
Great presentation, and I kind of agree with my friend over here, Commissioner Wells, but that's not where my point was. My point was, when I look at this, I'm missing the trails that we have for future land use. I thought we always thought that we would extend the ERT in some way, kind of circle north. Are we getting away from that, or I know it was, when I was reading, it's in there, scattered everywhere, and we talk about, biking trails, and it's just somehow, if we could connect it, show it on here for the future would be great.
Yeah. Oh, Adam, did you have something?
Um,
Yeah.
It's gonna be in the plan somewhere. The Virginia Code requires that the general plan include in it the transportation plan and the public facilities plan. In fact, then the Virginia Code says, no public facility shall be located anywhere in your locality if it's not already shown on your general plan. So there's gonna be a transportation plan and a public facilities plan. It's gotta have our roads, our schools, and it ought to have the trails and the other things that are are public transportation mechanisms, modes, even if they're not streets or rail. So that, I'm saying that map is in the plan somewhere. I don't know if it is yet, but the law will require it to be in there. So if it hasn't already been drafted, it's coming.
It's
Yes,
in there,
it-
yes,
yes,
we
we
have it in the pillars.
Yeah, it goes on a different map.
I just miss it.
The state or federal? State?
And who determines what those areas will be?
That's gonna come through the product. Where are we with that?
So we've used right, we use the previous public work of the Department of Transportation for the multimodal plan and policy document that they worked on, and use that public input to insert into at least the trails and the other stuff. The schools we don't, again, we would normally just locate those, and then also any of the transportation network and improvements, those are identified through the HRPDC and the TPO. And so we have to incorporate that in the plan too. So most of these things are already either publicly vetted or have been designated by other people.
Mhm.
No, because I work with the Elizabeth River Trail Board, and so we haven't decided what the location of the trail will be. And so I'm just curious that there'll be a plan that is amenable, or if we're talking with people that are, there's all this work being done with the state trail that will come down that connects with Capitol Trail, and whether or not that will be in Norfolk or not, it hasn't been decided. So have we?
Well, I can tell you, Ms. Green shared with me, Kendra Green shared with me the ERT's master plan.
Right.
And then I did forward it on to our planners, so I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, so I just think it's important that we're talking not only to the ERT, but also the HD or whatever they're called, Hampton Roads, because, that there's big plans about trails that are coming down, connecting. Virginia Beach has already given the go-ahead, so I just don't want our plans to get in the way of future planning.
Yes. So the good thing is that because of all the input we have words that capture that, which should cover us for any potential expansion.
It's very flexible.
Right, it makes it flexible because like you said, that line hasn't been drawn on the map, right, yet? Now, the hard trail that's already exists and the kind of some of the pieces that kind of come off it already do, so that's what we've actually hard drawn into the map. But there are words that support it. So we'll double check it, we'll make sure we're not missing anything and make sure that there's nothing that's blocking us from doing anything in the future.
Excellent.
Thank you.
One more thing. So the light rail, I don't see the future light rail. Is that because we really don't know where we want it, or what?
It's the future of the
You don't see it?
So
Somewhere we say it in the words here, so.
As far as so we've shifted from just only focusing on light rail to mass transit or high capacity transit. And we've called out the corridors. I think there is a map that identifies the corridors, which also includes military high. We jokingly call it the big arrows. Are we doing the big arrows again? I can't remember.
It's a little bit more.
It's a little bit more, but we joked in Plan Over 2030, we took this big arrow and said, we're gonna go here, just to make sure that we covered it. There is some granularity to it because of the multimodal plan that provided some details to us. But we've switched from only focusing on light rail to including high capacity transit.
Okay. That's it. I mean, it was missing.
If you have more, you feel free to ask. Anyone else?
Yeah, you're welcome.
I just wanted to add to Chris's list of community engagement feedback sessions.
Mhm.
We do have, I need a partner if someone wants to go to Harbor Fest on Friday, the 6th. We're doing a pop-up Norfolk tent to gather feedback. We figured that would have folks from other cities and out-of-towners that would also be able to give some good feedback as well. So, anybody interested in noon to 2, noon to 4 on Friday the 6th? I think it's the 6th. Let me know. June 6th, yeah. Let me know.
Looks like you got some names. I was going to ask, thank you for that, Mr. Bateman. I was going to ask if there is a open house near where you live, if you would consider attending for the same reasons. Oh, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Wu.
Thank you.
Am I wrapping up too soon?
I just wanted to, I want to put a fine point on one thing because I don't want it to be lost and I want to make sure the commission understands where we put this idea. So there was a lot of discussion about housing production, and potential expansion to allowing additional housing. So because of the way that we've changed the future land use map to discuss place types, it talks about things that are primary uses that should always be okay in that area, and then secondary uses that might be okay through the public process or through a process and to assure that it meets the form. Please look at those circles and dots according to the sustain area very carefully, because that's where we have that it could be appropriate to put other uses in that neighborhood if one, it's architecturally or in a form meets the standard of that neighborhood, but also they get community buy-in with that as well. It's no longer a prohibition for someone to come up with a good idea, where it says, the previous land use map said this is single family, so anything else is not appropriate. It is now saying these may be appropriate, but you need to go through the process. Which we know if the public doesn't buy into it, of course, there's not going to be support to it. But if someone is able to come up with a way to make a development that furthers everybody's goals in that community, they may get support. And so our goal there wasn't to prescribe to say that we should build multifamily everywhere. It's to respect the neighborhoods that exist, as well as respect the fact that people can ask and come up with something that may fit in, that may make a difference and continue to chip away at that issue. So I could have just sat quiet, but I didn't want anyone to think that we just kind of buried that or hid that somewhere. That is the goal with this future land use map, rather than being less exclusionary under the right circumstances. And that's the key. It has to be the right circumstances.
I was just gonna say about these meetings, I think lots of us, we work with it so we know why it's important, but I think the general public doesn't understand why it's important and why it matters. And so whatever we can do, and I know we do a good job of it, but I just am encouraging them to make it something that matters to them and why, make it meaningful, because I think attendance, as we all know, is super important, and anything we can do on social media or TV or whatever to help them understand what this means. Because I think these terms are tossed out a lot. I mean, I get confused by them, so anything that we can make it come home to them.
Absolutely.
Anyone else? Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Will.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
appreciate you both.
Thank you.
Our next presentation is on auto-related uses. Jeremy.
Afternoon, Commissioners. I actually have two presentations on this topic. So the first one is a response to a specific request that we've talked about with you already. Wanted to bring back some more information. And then we were asked to provide more of a broader base, or what we're calling a primer here in this case, on auto-related uses in general in the city. So we're going to go from Chris talking big picture to me talking very granular, very fine-grained information here. So to start with, you all recall that we brought to you a month ago a request to initiate a text amendment specifically to allow motorcycle repair and sales motorcycle repair and sales on smaller size lots. And so this is the follow-up to that. So just to give you the background again, we've got rules in place in the zoning ordinance that deal with, provide a lot of performance standards, requirements for various auto-related uses. Specifically in lot size, the area of lot size, we require for several uses a lot of 20,000 square feet and with a width of 100 feet minimum before you can even apply. Now, we're talking generally uses that require a conditional use permit, but we are requiring those for any sort of auto sales or auto repair uses. That's something that was drawn up very intentionally after a detailed process that took place back in 2014. A lot of research went into those numbers. Again, we did receive a request from a particular operator wanting to carve out something separate for motorcycle sales, arguing, and we're different, our vehicles are smaller, perhaps that requirement is too strict. So the current zoning requirements, 5 different uses have this specific requirement. I think the ones in particular that we're talking about here are really the repair, the first 3, the 2 repair and maintenance and the sales. I don't think we would argue that there should be any difference for recreational vehicles or taxi facilities. It depends on the size of the engine. I'll talk about that in the primer. It depends on whether it's considered a vehicle by the state or not. In this case, generally no. Generally their motors are too small or they're electric, so they're not considered a part of that. Yep. So what was asked of us a month ago was to come back, or to go out and find some examples, try and figure out whether this made sense, where our lines should be. So took a look at some other cities. We've got a couple in Norfolk that handful that work well, handful that probably don't work as well. Right off the bat, I'm sure those are particularly in the northern part of the city. Sunrise Cycles on Little Creek Road. That one has a CUP. It's much larger than it well meets the requirement. They have a CUP. There's another one on Virginia Beach Boulevard that I think now does a mix of types of vehicles, but they have a CUP, would not actually meet the requirements today. They could not get that CUP today. So I tried to move out of Norfolk and look at some other examples, particularly ones where it could work actually fairly well, or where it appears to be working fairly well in these other cities. So I came up with 3 examples. I'm gonna do some marketing for them. I do believe they appear to be good operators from the standpoint of what you can see on the ground. And so I'm just going to go through them. This first example, this is off of Witch Duck Road in Virginia Beach. So very industrially sort of area, low scale industrial commerce type of area. This is the smallest lot size I could see, but this is a 50 by 100 foot lot, 5,000 square feet. They do both repair and sales of motorcycles, including some pretty heavy duty work on them. I've looked through the street view history. I've been out to the site. It appears they keep it clean and orderly. So it appears that on the smallest site I could find, they do keep it in order. I did not call Virginia Beach and ask them whether they've got any issues with them or anything like that. I was really going off of what we could identify. And so really, this was the smallest of the examples I could find around the region. Seemed to be a fairly decent operation, if not perfect, but for a fairly small site, just doing motorcycles, not doing larger vehicles. Another one I found, this is further out in Virginia Beach off of Indian River Road. This is a quite a bit larger site, so this would actually meet our code today of being a 20,000 square foot, 100 foot width lot. This is the example that would meet today's code in Norfolk. Quite a large site. Seems to do a good job, comprehensive work. Again, looked at the street view history, drove by. It looks like it's in pretty good shape. I think the challenge that we run into in Norfolk is these sites we don't have as many of these sites as Virginia Beach or Chesapeake or Suffolk would, where you're going to have these larger retail spaces. Again, you see with both of these examples, you don't have, I think the first example has a small bay door on the side. The second one doesn't at all. These don't typically have those bay doors pulled up to the street. That's not necessarily a requirement, whereas you would need that for an auto establishment doing larger vehicles. So that's something to consider as well. Third example from Chesapeake I thought was an interesting one. Again, it's a newer building, so great landscaping, parking well laid out, all of that sort of thing. I thought this one was interesting because while it is a larger site, it is, they only have 2 of the 5 bays, so they really only have a smaller amount of space out of this. And that's something that we probably need to consider, and I'll go through the specific rules and what we're thinking in terms of, but we need to consider maybe at the staff level a little bit more how we want to approach these, because the zoning ordinance says the lot size. Well, how do we approach this? They don't have the whole lot. So if you have a very large lot, but you only have control of a very small amount, right now we're going to tell you, we're going to interpret that as lot size means the area you control. We probably need to think about that a little bit more. That may be more of a general thing that we might look at, but specific to this, especially for a smaller scale use like this, that can be a consideration. And you see in this case, they have, it is a larger lot, but they also have front and back frontage on 2 streets, so they have the bays in the back, which I thought was an effective approach. Again, these are just examples that I found of what I thought were good, clean operations that did exist of these types of uses. I don't know that they argue for the smaller lot necessarily, but I think the first one and the third one would be less than the 20,000 square feet and 100 feet of width as we would have it in the code today. So it's 100 feet, and they've got 2 of the 5 bays, so probably in the range of 40 feet of what they control. Maybe a little bit more, they've got some setbacks on the sides, obviously, so it's.
Just for Jeremy's point about what we consider if they only had control over 2 of the bays and some of the parking lots, that's not hyperbole. That's something that Susan and Jeremy actually dealt with recently with someone that was trying to say, I have control of this and this lot over here and these little spaces, I want you to add them all together. And so we're like, no, we're not doing that. That doesn't work. So again, we're being very careful about how we approach this, because we do know that there are ways, and this wasn't even a motorcycle person. This was someone doing full out auto repair, major auto repair, so body work. So again, understanding that the research that Susan and her team did at the time in 2014 was mostly to assure that all of these sites had enough maneuvering space, enough space to store the cars and not junk up the right of way, which is what we're dealing with, what we dealt with in any of the older establishments. So, sorry, Jeremy.
No, thank you for the clarification there. So, with the thought that we do need to potentially think about whether we're talking about lot area or the area they're controlling, and maybe we need to look at that as an adjustment in our code as well. Taking a look at this, I don't see a reason why we can't modify the language to add a caveat for those businesses that are dealing exclusively with motorcycles, selling or repairing. So I think potentially modify both the repair and the sales use, because they typically seem to cross both. Doesn't seem like you just repair them or just sell them. It seems like you do both. And to allow the opportunity with a conditional use permit to ask to go to as small as 5,000 square feet and 50 feet of width. Doesn't mean that Planning Commission and City Council have to grant the CUP, but as we are right now, it's not something that could even be requested. And so this would, a loose recommendation, again, this would be your text amendment, so bringing this to you for your guidance and input, and then we would bring this back to you presumably next month for actual consideration. So if this is something that you think makes sense for us to move forward with, we can bring this and put this on your agenda in June, or we're happy to think about it more.
Got the words in my head yet. Come back to it.
So similar sized vehicles, how do you determine what that is? Do we have that listed in criteria?
I think we need, I wrote it that way intentionally. Again, Adam's gonna have to help me make sure it actually makes sense. I wrote it that way. Right. I wrote it that way intentionally, though, because I didn't want to take away all flexibility. How do you define a motorcycle, or the vehicles that have the 2 wheels in front and the one in the back? It's still a motorcycle in all sense, but it's not a motorcycle. I don't know. So equivocating a little bit here, Adam will make sure we get it to something that makes sense. But I thought a little bit of flexibility made sense there.
I trying to split a hair, that same hair, but I was thinking about those little scooters and that wouldn't technically be a motorcycle, but I just wondered, thinking, it's really hard thinking like, what are all the innovations going to be in the years to come? But I was just wondering, that same line stuck out to me too for that reason.
And these businesses tend to, from what I can tell, tend to deal in electric scooters, electric bicycles, small engine, that are actually not strictly a motorcycle by state definition, all the way up to, your full-on traditional Harley. They seem to go across that. We would draw the line, I think, in the case of something like that, it would be a combination use of a small engine repair and auto repair, or small engine sales, or retail goods and auto sales. We had batted around the idea of actually carving out an entirely separate use, but we didn't think that was necessary in this case. So it's possible for you to cover both, but you're absolutely right. The landscape is changing daily as to what works and what can be engineered and what can be sold.
Any other questions or comments we want to share?
I think I'm looking for a thumbs up or a yeah, please bring this forward. I don't know that it needs to be a formal vote, but an idea that we're ready to move this onto the agenda.
Give it a thumbs up.
And is your question also regarding the size? This is allowing basically a 75% reduction from the standard. It's not 50, it's going down to a quarter.
Correct. Does this seem reasonable or somewhere in between?
Question, the request for the deviation, do they give you any inclination on lots that they're looking at or current footprint?
There's a specific lot. It is
10,000 square feet.
Yeah, it's 10,000, but it's got the lot width, so it would actually, I think it would need the 50-foot, but it has the lot size larger. So the specific request was it's an L-shaped lot, so it's kind of awkward.
So if 10,000, they would be eligible to apply for a CUP under this rule.
Yes.
Well, they would still not have the 50 feet in width.
Oh, I thought I had the 50.
Because they are the property where the request was generated is a 50-foot wide at the street, so we would measure it as 50 feet wide, but it's 10,000 square feet because it juts out behind. So with this, they would be allowed to do it, yes. Yes, they would be eligible with this rule.
That clarification, does that change anyone's mind? Are we still? I think we're ready, if you want to initiate it, and we'll talk about it.
We will plan to bring it to you, and I believe it's already been initiated, so we will bring it to you next month. That will be our plan.
Thank you.
All right, now to go more broadly. Now, I will warn you, this is a bit lengthy, a bit technical and detailed. Please stop me if you don't understand what I'm saying. Don't wait till the end. It definitely gets a little convoluted and a little confusing. So I want to make sure that this is serving you as a primer to help understand help you understand how we regulate across the board. So, based on some research, this is not the world's most thorough research. This is the best we could do in the time that we have looking at the city's business license records and conditional use permit records and doing some cleanup of the data. There's approximately 375 auto-related businesses in the city. In the categories we grouped here were auto repair, auto sales, and gas stations, because a lot of the old gas stations do have repair. And so the newer ones don't, but a lot of the older ones do. So these are existing businesses. This isn't necessarily sites. If you look at sites, there's a lot of sites that have multiple businesses. So if you look at individual sites, there's still probably around 300 or a little bit more sites that have auto repair, auto sales, gas stations in this city. Now, there are a number of other different types, auto storage, rental, things like that aren't included here. The business license records, the categories they use get kind of difficult for us to work with at that scale. But this, I thought, was a decent snapshot of what we have in the city. And I'll give you some more data. I've got a map as we go forward. There's also, just to point out, one of the ones we talk about a lot that I wasn't able to pull was tire sales. I'll talk a little bit about that one as well. That's something that we have regulated a little bit more strictly in recent years, but didn't have it prior to. I'll also talk about the small engine repair a little further. And then something that I'm going to touch on here and then probably not visit beyond, tinting. Car stereo, which is less common now, but still out there, in similar types of businesses. Those are typically not considered auto repair uses, but they oftentimes will have the same impact of cars coming and going. Those are considered, as long as they're doing tinting on a vehicle or working on someone's stereo, those are considered retail sales, retail goods. And so we regulate them entirely separately, generally by right. Don't generally have issues with them. They tend to come and go fairly quickly. But it is something just to be aware of, that if you're thinking about that, I'd be happy to discuss it further, but it's just talk about it, set it aside. That's the approach today. That is also in the list as well. In 2018, we did separately carve out the AutoZone Advanced Auto Parts, that type of business. That's a retail business as well. Right, and we covered that through that, but we do consider it a retail, essentially a retail type business. Yes,
What
ma'am.
about car washes?
Car washes are, I'll talk, did I have car wash in here? I did not have car wash in here, so there's 20 different auto-related uses, and I included 9 of them. So, again, we can talk about them. Car washes almost exclusively require conditional use permits, but I tried to focus more on the repair and sales types of uses rather than some of the ancillary ones. There's a handful of weird ones in that list of 20, so I didn't think you wanted me to be that thorough. Okay. So here's the ones that I'm going to summarize for you today. So I'll go through just the list. Sales, repair, there's a couple different types of repair. Gas station, that doesn't include repair, but a lot of the ones that you think of as a gas station out in the city, they do have them a lot of times. Tire sales, we'll talk about that. Auto rental, that's something that we do see. Salvage yard, storage, tow lots, and then that small engine repair shop. So I'm going to go through these in a little bit of detail. This is today's code, and that's going to be important as we get forward towards the end. This is what today's code would address. And so what you can see for this selection of uses, with the exception of small engine repair and smaller scale auto rental, in our most common locations where they're allowed, they require a CUP. So today, you want to do pretty much any of these, you have to come and get a conditional use permit. That's today. So I think everybody knows or should be aware that we now have, as of 2018, a detailed set of performance standards for every use in the city, or most of the uses. Some of them don't have a lot of performance standards, but we have a detailed set of performance standards. We have a set for the entire category in terms of auto-related uses. And I've got a couple slides of these things. So you're welcome to read through these, but you can see how what we've tried to establish is, if you're going to do one of these in the city, you're going to control how this operates. You're going to tell us where the vehicles are going, where they're parking, where they're being displayed, where they're being stored. You're going to make sure that they're not driving on the grass and destroying your landscaping. You're going to have additional landscaping. Things like that. You're going to not allow your customers to, or put your vehicles as you're working on them out on the street. These are standards that we put in the ordinance in 2018 that would apply to all auto-related business, the whole list of 20 businesses that we would have in the group, and down to the level of screening your mechanical, and again, additional landscaping. Even oil water separators, so we control some environmental runoff issues. So If you're wanting to build one of these today from scratch, all of these things would apply. In addition to that, every one of the uses has its own specific set of standards as well. So I'll go through these one at a time. Again, please stop me if you want to discuss. So starting with auto sales, again, we know what that is. It does include auctions. It does include wholesale. If you're selling more than, I think the state allows you to sell personally up to 4 or 5 a year, something like that. If you're selling more than that, you're doing auto sales. And so again, we talked the minimum lot size exists here. We specifically talk about vehicle display, where those vehicle display pads can be for those dealerships that want to elevate them, right? And then we, again, apparently it was an issue in the past of displaying them on the roof, so we want to make sure that is not allowed. Moving to repair. So we have 2 different categories of repair. We have a major and a minor. That's only since 2018. Major, you got a paint booth, you're doing auto body, that sort of thing. Again, we do the 20,000 square foot. We don't allow junking or demolition of vehicles. That's a different use. And all of your work has to take place indoors. You're not fixing cars outside. But specifically, major means auto body, things like that. We're more restrictive on that one. Minor is your lesser, your oil changes, your tire rotation, some of that sort of thing. Similar standards. In fact, the exact same standards here apply as major. The distinction being auto body or paint versus not.
So, did I see on that and the other one, what I've seen are tires stacked up, invisible to the public. You drive by, they're outside. That's covered in that.
I believe is in one of the general standards.
Okay.
I
I saw it in the automobile, it said no outdoor storage, which I assume that's the vehicles or
Yeah,
maybe tires.
Any establishment that was engaged in that behavior before we put this rule in place in 2018 is grandfathered.
Yes.
And so our ability to penalize somebody for not complying with a performance standard that was imposed after they were using that methodology, we don't have that available. I'm still bitter about losing that case in court, but that's
That answers my next question.
Yeah, I'll talk to you quite a bit about grandfather and what that means as we go forward. Yes, ma'am.
So a lot of those 300 then are grandfathered that you owe.
Like 80% of them.
That's what we see.
You're stealing my thunder, commissioners.
He's getting there.
That was the big reveal for later. Gas stations. We all know what gas stations are. More of them now are convenience stores that sell gas. Traditionally, it was gas stations that might have auto repair. That's less and less now. We don't see as many of these anymore. They tend to come in, it's the new Wawa, the new Royal Farms, that sort of thing. But we do have specific standards here. And again, some of these apply to as much the convenience issue as they do the gas sales issue. Tire sales, and I included a picture of one of my favorites. Stacked tires are very common, I believe, in that situation. So in 2018, we did carve this out as an entirely separate use because we did want to regulate it differently. We didn't want to think of it as auto repair, and we didn't want to, what we wanted to be careful about was we didn't want to grandfather someone who was only ever doing tires. Well, you're now vested for auto repair or auto sales because so we went ahead and just carved this out as a separate use. Again, today we would say tires have to be stored indoors. Can't store them outside. We'll go more into where we are with those vested uses. Auto rental, where you have more than 25, you require a CUP. Less than that, it's not. So you'll see around the city, you'll see a handful of places that will have 5 or 6 U-Haul vehicles. That is not triggering. That's still this use, but it's not triggering the conditional use permit requirement. It's where you can have those 25 or more that you trigger it. But again, we do have some requirements in here. Again, display of vehicles on top of a building. I think that was an issue at some point. Salvage yards, this is your pick and pull. This is your wrecking vehicles, you're dismantling them and that sort of thing. We don't have a lot of this left in the city, thankfully. There are still a handful that fall under this category, but we don't have much of this left. And it, again, requires a conditional use permit, so anybody new, we would have a lot more to say about than this one performance standard, I would imagine. Storage, there are a handful of these around the city. These are personal vehicles stored whether indoors, inside a building, or outdoors for more than 90 days. And that's not to say that if you have one vehicle that's there for less than 90 days, it's the bulk of them. And again, if you're going to do it outdoors, we want more screening. There's a couple that have come through over the years that were indoors in small buildings. I don't know how many of them are around anymore. I don't know how that makes financial sense, but it is something that we've considered in this use as well. There are a handful of them around. Tow lot. So this is similar to that, but this is the vehicles are going to be towed to you, and they're going to be there for less than 90 days. So this could be your potentially you're storing wrecked vehicles that are waiting for repair at a shop. Not at the shop, that wouldn't be a tow lot, but there are some third party off-site where they store them for a time and then take them. But more likely they've been towed and they're being stored there until the owner can come back and get them. Something we do want to make sure we regulate separately as well. So you can see where one of the things that I want to point out is you can see where we have 20 different uses in parts so that we can parse them out very specifically and make sure that we know what you're doing and we know that what you're not doing. So a little bit fine grain here. So small engine repair shop. We've talked about this a couple times. This is an industrial use, not an auto use. This is an industrial use, so it's treated a little bit differently. It has different general performance standards, which I didn't paste in here. But the specific ones, again, outdoor storage must be screened. So these are vehicles that are not defined by DMV to be automobiles. So it's under a certain size, of a certain CC size engine. I don't know off the top of my head what that limit is. I don't know for sure. I didn't dive into it very deeply to see how they're handling electric engines. But you're typically going to see golf carts, golf carts down to motorcycles, scooters down to lawnmowers in something like this. Specific type of business, and this is specifically for repair of them. These tend to be, there's no size limitation on these. These tend to be in those flex industrial bays and fairly small shops. Mr. Pendleton. No, boats are considered automobiles in the zoning ordinance. Again, there's going to be some definitional, how large is your engine? How do we consider that? But I think if a small engine repair might handle an outboard for a small boat, but you're not going to bring in a large yacht into this and count it. That would be considered auto repair.
We also do have the use of boat repair.
We do.
In those zoning districts, so some may require conditional use permit depending on the size.
That's one of the 20 that I didn't include in the list.
Okay, thank you.
So these are allowed a little bit more broadly, and they're generally allowed by right. But they tend to be a lot smaller, and typically I don't think they tend to be as problematic. But we do note that they sometimes inspectors do have to spend some time with them, making sure they're not junking at the site. So that is something that we are aware of and work through. So again, just to revisit the generic use table here, and this is obviously not all the zoning districts, just the most common where these would occur. By and large, everything I've discussed today, if you want to do that, is going to require a conditional use permit. That's not always been the case. So again, today, here's where we are, conditional use permit for the bulk of these uses. Take a step back in time, 2017, the end of the 92 zoning ordinance. There was a district, the old C4 zoning district, allowed auto sales and service by right. It was a small district, didn't include a whole lot of properties, but it was, you can see how we've evolved over time. taking a bigger step back, 1973. So that's kind of the middle between the 68 zoning ordinance up to the 92 zoning ordinance. I included that date because that's the one I have the great fold-out copy of. So this is the date I'm going to use. But it was largely this largely reflects what throughout that era. You can see in commercial zoning, automobile sales and service and trailer sales and service was a by right use. Automobile service and gas stations in M, which was manufacturing, which today would be I, industrial, by right uses. So quite a bit different situation back at that time. Let's take a step even further back, and we do have shops that have history back to this date, back to 1949 or before. You see in commercial and manufacturing in districts, auto sales was by right. And same thing with service and as above with the service, the repair, and the gas stations by right in industrial, what we would today consider industrial areas. So this is part of what we have. We still have to live with the legacy of a lot of these because of the vested rights situation. So again, we'll revisit 375 or so auto-related uses, rough number. And here's a map of the ones that we could identify. And you see them along your typical corridors where you'd expect, generally Military Highway, Little Creek Road, Virginia Beach Boulevard, your railroad district, that 25th Street corridor has a good number of them. And you see, Matt did us a favor by making the CUP dots a little bit bigger than the non-CUP dots. They're showing up a little bit. They're scattered around as well. But there's a good number of non-CUP ones operating out there. There are, from what we can tell, there are 72 active CUPs for these uses. And you can see the bulk of those are for old gas stations because gas stations in commercial for a long time required a use permit. Those use permits don't necessarily tell me much. Some of them have almost nothing in them. But they do have them. Far fewer for sales and repair.
So what would trigger them to have to come back and get a change of owner?
Nope. An expansion of the use or change of use. That would include something. So essentially, if they wanted to expand. So we have a process by which I'll walk through it. We have a process by which we review every proposed business license. The zoning staff, Austin's team, and the business and the Development Services Center will review every proposed business license. That's something that we do. That's the first step in the process. Then you go, once we say you're good, then you go to the business license office and get your license. As part of that, for auto businesses, we will take a look. If you have a conditional use permit, we will send an inspector out and we will make sure that you meet the requirements. And I'll actually, you got me here, so I'll jump up. I'll go back to the slide before this, but you're stealing my thunder again. But we'll go out and we'll inspect those businesses and make sure they meet the conditional use permit that's in place. If they do not have a conditional use permit, we will still go out and inspect them and make sure the site is in good working order, not junked up. Everything's in good shape. We'll look for code violations of, could be tall weeds and grass, could be property maintenance issues. We will go and do that every time someone requests one. The principle is if you are in one of those grandfathered sites, you get the same number of licenses that you've had before. So there are some sites, and I've got an example of one that have say they have their grandfather for 3 different operators. Say they have multiple bays and their grandfather for 3 different operators. They come in and we say, all right, who's left? Who are you replacing? And you can do exactly what they were doing and nothing more. And we maintain, I've got a drawer in my office wider than this podium of all of the files for each one of them with the license history back as far as we can go and the records of inspections as far as we can go, where we track them and we track those businesses. There's one of my least favorite properties in the entire city. I will leave it unnamed, but it has, I believe it's grandfathered for 4 sales, 3 repair, a salvage, and a couple of other retail uses on top of that. And we have to literally tell them every time they come in, which bay are you in, who are you replacing? And tell the owner that he's got to call the Commissioner of Revenue to surrender the old business license, because when they leave, they never surrender it themselves. So the owner has to call and say that, yeah, this guy's gone. That's the level of detail that we have to go through on those old sites. And so let me come back to, yes, ma'am.
Understand when a restaurant changes, managers or whatever, they have to come back. So why don't they have to?
So only if the restaurant has a conditional use permit that says that.
Oh, so the grandfather doesn't.
There are grandfathered restaurants, nightclubs in the city that we treat exactly the same way. There are very few of them, but there are a handful.
The general rule is that a vested right, the colloquial term is the grandfather right, to operate in a manner that was legal at the time you commenced it, even if it became legal at some point, like illegal at some point thereafter. If you're maintaining the same exact use, not expanding it, not changing your building, not pausing for more than 2 years, you can take small breaks, but you can't take a break of more than 2 years. If you're maintaining a use that was commenced legally at some point in time and not discontinued, then that right runs with the land indefinitely. Norfolk, Richmond, and now I think Hampton have special legislation from the General Assembly that says for ABC establishments, you can terminate somebody's permit approval upon a change in ownership. But it works the same, as Jeremy was saying, it works the same if they started operating a restaurant prior to the CUP requirement, and so they're grandfathered as an ABC establishment restaurant since before 1980, when Norfolk first imposed its ABC requirement, then they are grandfathered and new operators can come in and operate the same facility, again, limited to the same size without expansion, no breaks for more than 2 years, just as it was before. So, does that answer your question?
We just need to encourage folks to expand, change your operation.
Believe me, we try. And so the question related to ABC, auto facilities, again, I think it's about 80% of them don't have a use permit. Flip that for restaurants, it's probably about 80% of them do have a use permit or something like that. So it's the inverse, but this is our universe for auto facilities. And we try very hard to recommend that they come in and get a CUP, and they know very well what they have, and they know very well it won't be as easy if they on them if they come in for them. So because they're not meeting the requirements that I went through at the start today. A lot of those facilities are not. So it's a constant conversation that we have to have with them.
I wonder how many of them don't expand because of that.
That's exactly, we have been told that before. I'd love to make some improvements, but I know if I do so, I'm gonna have to go through that process and you're gonna make me do X, Y, and Z. It's something that does, it is something that does occur to them. And that's not exclusive to auto businesses. That's, there are ABC establishments that I've had that same conversation with as well, that are vested under prior rules, that would not be able to do what they want to do if they came in for a CUP. So just to take a step, look at how complicated it can get for us even. So of the 72 use permits that we have, these are the zoning ordinances under which they were approved. So the current ordinance, so all those detailed performance standards I gave you, those apply to 10 properties in the city. 10 since 2018. The 92 ordinance, we had decent luck getting them, mostly for gas stations. And the 92 ordinance had a decent number of standards as well, so it wasn't empty of standards. And the use permits from that era, especially the more recent end of that era, tend to have some pretty solid requirements. So that's a decent number of them, 43 of them, more than half of the use permits out there. Prior to that, everything, if you find a auto repair establishment, an auto sales establishment that has existed since prior to 1992, they don't have a use permit. They're operating as a vested establishment, with the exception if they're tied to a gas station. There's a handful of gas stations that have use permits that may also have a repair shop in it, with that 19 at the end. But pretty much once you get past 92, these facilities are operating as vested rights. Now, that doesn't mean that there was no requirement in place at all. Even looking the 1949 requirements, they at least had a definition of what these were, and they did have standards for parking spaces and things like that. So if we really wanted to dig down and really go after it, we do have some requirements, but very, very little. And so that's why what we do is we go out and we do check-in inspections. Our target is every 6 months for an auto facility. We try to get to every business in the city a year, every street-facing business. We're not going into the office towers and talking to them, but every street-facing business, we try to get to them every year. This is our target, at least right now, as we build up the business compliance unit. For auto facilities, ABC establishments, we're trying to get there even more often, about every 6 months, or even more, like if you're retail restaurant on Granby Street, we try and get there monthly if we can. And when we do those check-in inspections, we walk in and we look around and we look to see if, are there issues. Again, these aren't zoning things we're typically looking for. If they have a CUP, obviously they will be. If they're new, they will be. We're looking for property maintenance code violations. We're looking for tall weeds and grass. We're looking for trash and debris, solid waste. We will oftentimes bring the fire marshal along with them, and there may be environmental violations that they can identify on there. We do this on a regular basis to try and build a relationship with these guys so that they understand what their limitations are, but also to let them know that we're out there, we're watching. I will say we've done this. I've been with the city for 17 years. We've done this for that entire time. We've gone out to these places on a regular basis, particularly those that are in our more commonly traveled corridors. But the amount of staff we've had available to do this has ebbed and flowed. Right now, we've got a good amount of staff in the business compliance unit, so we are able to get into these places and really have this relationship with them and really get comfortable with these facilities. We've got great partners in neighborhood quality and the fire marshal and parking and the police to go out and look at these sites as well. And we try and do a really comprehensive look at as many of these facilities as we can. We're spending a lot of time on 25th Street and in the last couple years, and I don't know if it's shown a lot of results yet, but we're trying. We're trying to get some progress. So these are difficult, and this is our challenge, is that all those rules I went through, they don't apply to these places. So we really do have to work through one at a time. So I have some examples, and I'll talk to you about how this, really bring it home to you how this works. The businesses will remain unnamed. This is a auto sales facility that got a CUP in 2016, so just before the current ordinance, but great list of performance. There's 25 different conditions that apply to them, plus the general conditions that apply to all use permits in the 92 ordinance. So there's a lot that we can put under them. They went through full site plan review to build this site out, so we have everything we need to make sure they're operating well. This is a street view image. That orange truck right there is violating the ordinance. Now, this is a street view image from like last year, so I can't go run them a violation, but yeah, I believe they probably have sold the orange truck by now. But they've gone through quite a bit on this site, so this is a very easy one for us to go in, and as we know exactly what they're supposed to do, there's no uncertainty, and obviously you see who the operator is, so we don't typically have problems with these situations. This is the other end of the spectrum, and this is a facility on Virginia Beach Boulevard. The building goes back to 1952. It's zoned commercial now, but in 1952, that was Princess Anne County. What were the requirements on that? No idea. So here, we will go out, we'll knock on the door, we'll check with them, we'll see how things are going, we'll ask them to make sure they're not parking in the right-of-way. We'll make sure that there's no tall weeds and grass or trash and debris or anything like that. There's not a whole lot we can do with them. We still visit them as much as we can. The this is the challenge that we're dealing with. This one wasn't even built this one wasn't even in the city when this one started. And there is a continuous chain of business licenses that goes back that far, so. Because the other aspect of it is if they go vacant for more than 2 years, their vested rights go away. So we watch that really, really closely as well. And there are some that we really hope that they go for 2 years, and they're at 18 months, and we're like, can we get 6 more months? And they never quite do.
I think with some of these, maybe they're just sales, but then they also, lo and behold, they're out repairing back in the back. You don't really see it.
And that's a challenge going all the way back, and it's really a bit of a challenge in today's ordinance even. Auto sales and service, even under today's ordinance, you can repair and fix up the cars that you sell. Well, what does that mean? Am I gonna make sure that the Honda dealer is only repairing the Hondas that they sold, or if, so it becomes a challenge even then. Yes, you're correct. A lot of these places are doing, but the nice thing is that each one of those requires a separate business license. So we can follow the chain. If you've never repaired before, we'll know because you haven't paid the right business license. And we'll say, well, you started repairing now, but I see no history, so get out. Here's your violation. So thankfully, we can track that history. But that's why I kind of group them together, because there's really, the line between them isn't as clean as we would like it to be. Here's another example, repair facility. This one got a use permit in 2010, so fairly recent. It's an older building, older facility, but in 2010, we said, here's your standards. There's 8 conditions, but again, everything that applied to under the 92 ordinance. So this is a site that we do have a fair amount of control over because they did come in. I looked up the staff report when we did that, and I think they added something to the operation in 2010, so they expanded the use, and so we required them to get a use permit, a special exception at the time. And so we control their hours of operation, exactly how they're operating and what they're doing on the site. We did require that landscaping. And various other little operational limits. So we do have a good handle on an operator like this, but these are few and far between, as you saw. This is the flip side. This is one of our more challenging sites in the city. You can see it was only built in 1986. So there were some standards, but there weren't a lot because it was zoned in M2. So no CUP, no use permit required at that time. And auto repair was by right at that time. So not as much. We really go after this type. We've got a great relationship with these guys because we're visiting them constantly. And we want to make sure, we really are making sure that they're not backing out into that these vehicles aren't parked in the right of way. That they're not stacking old engines in front, which we've had issues with that before, things like that. And we are tracking very closely the chain of licenses here. In fact, this one's got 3 bays, but only 2 licenses. So at one point in time, it had 3. Now it only has 2. And so we're careful. That third one gets used as other contractors type of businesses, things like that. Doesn't mean we can say you can't use it. We just say you can't use it as auto repair or auto sales. I think in these cases they're all auto repair. So that's the challenge that we do deal with. And with that, that's my brief primer on this topic. Something we spend a lot of time on our team. So be happy to answer any questions or talk about it any further.
I asked all mine along the way. So
Yeah, I think we might have. Thank you, Jeremy. That was very insightful.
Impressive that you have to do.
Thank you.
I mean, that they have to track all those. I mean,
That was impressive.
That's my fault.
All right, well, why don't we go ahead and head into the public hearing preview? This first. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I have 3 encroachment applications for you. First one is 512 Pembroke Avenue. This also received a COA. The applicant proposed installing pavers into the verge. So this is located in the Ghent Historic District. It is a contributing structure. It was built in 1910 and was designed by Ferguson and Peebles and is a Georgian revival. So your photographs of the two locations. The applicant's proposing two areas, left and right of the tree, that you can kind of see in the photo on the left. There'll be 12-foot-long sections, and the pavers will fill the verge extending from the sidewalk to the curb, which is approximately 28 inches in width. So here's a drawing submitted by the applicant. The proposed pavers measure 4 inches by 8 inches and will be a tan beige color. And then here's the order sheet with the example of the pavers. And ARB recommended approval on a vote of 9-0. Any questions on this one? Okay, next one, 3211 Lafayette Boulevard. This is for an encroachment of an existing pole sign. As part of a site plan review following repaving of the parking lot, there was a dedication of right-of-way that was required. And as part of that dedication, at the intersection of Lafayette Boulevard and Cromwell Road, this will result in the existing pole-mounted sign that you see here to become encroaching upon public property. Here's some more site photos. The sign's overall height is 16 feet and 8 inches with dimensions of 7 feet and 6 inches in length and then 5 feet and 1 inch in width. And then here's the survey with the dedication pointed out. And ARB recommended approval on a vote of 9-0. And then last one is at 117 East Princess Anne Road. And this is for encroachment of outdoor dining. This is located in the State and National Historic Norfolk Auto Row Historic District. The building is contributing, and it was constructed in 1946 and is commercial style. So here's the proposed outdoor dining structure and the site layout. This was reviewed and approved under a conditional use permit by City Planning Commission at the November 16th, 2023 public hearing. At that time, the outdoor dining wasn't reviewed by ARB since there wasn't an encroachment application with that one. So the outdoor dining structure will be measured 17th in length and will be 7 feet and 5/8 inches wide. The outdoor dining structure will be 10 feet tall and framed with 6x6 pressure-treated ground contact southern pine wood posts. And there will be a wood railing attached to the structure to encompass that, and that will be 3 feet tall and 3 feet and 8 inches tall.
How much, they've got how much space is that sidewalk there? There's 9 something or 6?
6, yeah.
6 feet.
And then here's that on the survey. And ARB recommended on a vote of 9-0 to recommend approval.
Okay, question on the right of way where there's other property owners that this butts up to. Are they required to get owner agreement for closing that right of way from the other owners?
Yeah. So Mr. Baben, the encroachment approval is what's just required, and they're allowed to, the application's allowed to go to the extent of their properties in front of their business, and is granted by city council. The neighbors will get notified of the proposal, but they don't necessarily need their approval since it's in the public way.
It's not actually a closure of the street.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to say encroachment, but
It's revocable at any time by the city council if
Okay.
it needs to go away.
I do have a question, but it's about number 1. It's about the pavers. So pavers, I would think, are like bricks with the roots, and as they grow, they're going to move. Is the owner responsible for making sure those pavers stay smooth? Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay.
It's part of an encroachment. There, again, as Mr. Molina noted, it's a license to be in our public right of way. So they are required to maintain those areas.
And they're required to have insurance and make the city an additional insured on the insurance for premises liability.
Good, thanks.
Are they previous pavers?
I
Pavers
don't
themselves
believe
aren't
so, no.
incentives. The pavers are not impervious, but the pavers are impervious, but there's no grout, right? It's just open pavers. Yeah, so water would run through
Through the grout, non-grout.
non-grout
And they'll be
areas.
set only 6 inches deep, so they won't be set in too far into the ground.
Thank you. Oh, could you go back? I'm not sure. Okay, so.
Yeah, also recommend approval on this one.
Thank you. All right, so next is our continued agenda. Next one.
Yes.
All right, so you'll notice your continued agenda number 1 and your regular agenda number 1 are the same property. So it's going to be one presentation with 2 requests. So this applicant is requesting to conditionally rezone this property from IN to MFNS and obtain a CUP to continue to operate the child daycare center after the rezoning. So while Plan Norfolk 2030 future land use designation for the site is institutional, multifamily would be congruent with the multifamily designations on the adjacent properties. The property is currently zoned IN. The applicant requests it be conditionally rezoned to MFNS in order to facilitate a new development of residential condos. The applicant further requests the CUP be granted to permit the child daycare center to continue to operate after the rezoning. So here is the site. So as I said, it's currently zoned IN. This zone does allow child daycare centers by right, but it requires a minimum lot size of 1 acre. The applicant proposes to subdivide the lot, continue the child daycare center on one side, and construct townhome-style condos on the other side. Since the subdivision would reduce the size of the lot with the daycare center to less than 1 acre, it would not be able to remain zoned IN. The MFNS district allows child daycare center by CUP. Here is the proposed layout of the site. The applicant has proffered 2 conditions to date. One requires a drainage plan for both sites to be considered together. The other permits required landscaping for the proposed western property line of the daycare center, which is kind of in the middle right by the parking lot. It would permit that landscaping to be redistributed via an alternative landscaping plan. The applicants also indicated they will proffer a site plan, but has not yet gotten me that updated site plan. The CUP for the child daycare center would also have a condition tying the CUP itself to the site plan. And then currently they've got, it's hard to see in the picture, but they've got some extra signage that's not currently in compliance with the ordinance, so we're working on them to remove that so they'll be in compliance. They do have to get that completed before they move forward for this month. So if they have not yet done that, at some point we'll have to push them off. Any questions? Every window has signage. They also they have a small electronic sign on the right side of the building. They've turned it off, but it still exists, so they still have to remove that. And then every window of the building has a graphic in it. And the graphic we're fine with. It's got pictures of kids playing or something. But it's got words with, talking about how it's quality childcare and a safe place and, that kind of stuff. So it's too much signage for the frontage they've got.
Are the condos for rent or for sale?
They've indicated condos, so I assume that they're for sale. But they're, they haven't, I guess, specified that, but I believe it would be apartments if, otherwise, yeah.
You said they don't have a site plan?
This, what you're looking at is, it's actually a cut and paste of 2 site plans, because they had originally given me both sites individually. So what you see on the left side of the screen is the site plan for the condos, and then what you see on the right side of the screen is the site plan for the existing daycare center, along with their proposed landscaping that they've put on there.
Any other questions?
one is mine as well. So this applicant is requesting a conditional use permit in order to facilitate the expansion of their existing drive-through and continue operating that drive-through 24 hours per day. It's located on the northwest corner of East Little Creek and Meadow Creek Roads in the Bel Air neighborhood. The proposed use is consistent with Plan Norfolk 2030, which designates the site as commercial. Property is zoned community commercial. Since the business opened in 1980, prior to the existing zoning ordinance regulations, the site's currently legally non-conforming for their existing drive-through and operating hours, but since they wish to expand that drive-through, they need to come into conformance by getting a CUP for both that drive-through and the 24-hour operation. Here's a site for the applicant. It's pretty much stayed the same over the years. It's been updated, but the layout hasn't changed. And here's their proposed site plan. As you can see, kind of on the right-hand side of the building there, they're going to add a second drive-through lane. They'll also, the kind of shaded areas that are darker are where they're going to be supplementing the existing landscaping. Any questions?
My familiarity with this particular location, it seems like I recall there being a lot of problems getting out of the McDonald's. Yeah, the bottom left. Have they talked about that at all?
I don't believe so. They have not. I mean, this is their existing. This is the site plan they provided us. They don't mention anything about any changes or anything on that.
Actually, that entrance right so close to the intersection is problematic. You get people go flying in while cars are, trying to beat that. It's problematic for sure.
What can we do?
You could say no left turn coming out of that, and then have them go up through the intersection.
Yeah, that would fix the outbound.
Just to consider reviewing that as a condition.
I mean, do we have any data, there have been any accidents or anything that have happened? Maybe that would be.
This was reviewed by the Department of Transportation, so I don't believe that they had any concern. With this one specifically, the one, as you know, the one on Little Creek Road, the further parts of the Little Creek Road near the train tracks, there are significant concerns on that one, which is why they altered their entrance and exit way.
I got you.
So there was no recommendation from the Department of Transportation for this one.
So typically they would give us something if they're.
Correct. If there's any significant transportation concern, they would recommend an alteration.
I just find it interesting that we have two commissioners that know that there's an issue here.
It might have been that one day that I wanted fries.
It's only one day.
Just the one.
So is the driveway on the left, is that both ways, in and out?
So currently it's got, appears to just be an out arrow, but it's kind of designed, it
So I was
doesn't.
trying to figure out
prohibit it.
why people are going on to the front, the drive goes in front of the building. You see what I mean?
If you look at to page north of the, we probably should expand this picture. There's a shared parking area that they can get out onto Meadow Creek, I believe, as you go further back. As you can see, there's that arrow. I think they can loop around and come back and get to the light. It's just not shown on this.
So
Do you know, or did that lane at the back exist before the Alton was developed? Or is that new?
That paved area in the back. I can't
I'm
remember.
wondering if historically their access was all on Little Creek, and now they've got access on the back that they didn't have until a few years ago. And so they may have
I don't know that it may not be their property.
more accessibility right now than they've ever had before. Begs the question is whether we need everything they've always had. I just don't remember what it looked like before the housing was developed.
We do want it to be safe though, whatever.
Yeah.
If the commission would like, we can revisit the discussion with the Department of Transportation.
I think that That seems reasonable to me, and just to hear what they recommend would be helpful. Thank you, Russ.
This applicant is My Mama's Kitchen. They're applying for a conditional use permit at 1872 East Little Creek Road. The site is located on the north side of East Little Creek Road between Halpern Drive and Meadow Creek Road. The proposal is to allow the existing restaurant to sell alcohol beverages for on-premise consumption. The proposed use is consistent with Plan Norfolk 2030, which designates this site as commercial. The site is zoned CC. The applicant is relocating from 7943 Shore Drive and is applying for a conditional use permit to utilize an existing building as a restaurant with the sale of alcohol beverages on premise. Currently, all restaurants operating after 5 p.m. and selling alcohol beverages is required to get a conditional use permit. Okay. This is the proposed floor plan. I am working with the applicant. He's reaching out to his architect. He does have in his multi-purpose room pool tables. However, he did state that he is not having any pool tables. So we're working on getting that updated. Okay. This is the site. It has operated as several restaurants in the past. The applicant did state that there will be some site improvements such as restriping the parking spots that are already there and installing a dumpster enclosure. The applicant did state that he plans on doing some landscaping, however, it will have to wait until the business opens up to produce revenue. He's not sure exactly what landscaping improvements will be available, but he will do his best to spruce up the site. Okay, hours of operation are 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. until 10 Friday and Saturday, and 11 a.m. until 4 p.m. on Sunday. The hours for alcohol beverages on premise is 11 a.m. until 9 p.m. Monday through Thursday, 11 a.m. until 9 Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. until 4 on Sunday. The total occupancy is 99 with 88 seats indoors. Any other questions for that one?
This was the guy that was located where Amaze Asian Cafe and Bistro is now. They were there, and so they're just relocating to a larger site over here.
All right. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This site is 155 Granby Street, Insomnia Cookies. A restaurant operate after 12 o'clock midnight in downtown. It's on the west side of Granby Street between West Plume Street and West City Hall Avenue. The use is consistent with Plan Norfolk 2030, which designates the site as downtown. It's zoned downtown business center. In this district and everywhere else in the city, you need a conditional use permit to operate a restaurant with extended hours of operation. So in downtown, that's after midnight. Everywhere else in the city, that's after 11 o'clock p.m. Here's their floor plan. The site formerly operated as Which Witch. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. This is a place that sells cookies. Why is it considered a restaurant? It's considered a restaurant because they have more than 10 seats. Any establishment that has more than 10 seats in these, we consider to be a restaurant. Otherwise, it'd be a retail use. We still require a conditional use permit to be retail use after midnight, so they wouldn't need a conditional use permit either way. But I just wanted to elaborate on that point a little bit. Their seats are in the bottom left corner there. And then you can see that there's like a few tables on the bottom left, and then just above it, there's some tables above that as well. It's a very, very small capacity we're talking about. Like I said, formerly operated as Which Witch. They're proposing to be open from 11 a.m. until 1 o'clock a.m. Sunday through Wednesday, and then 12 o'clock p.m. until 3 o'clock a.m. Thursday through Saturday. They have 13 seats indoors and a total capacity of 27 people. They do plan on delivering cookies. I don't know if they plan on having their own delivery people operating or if they're using DoorDash or Grubhub, but they do delivery. I can personally testify their cookies are great at that hour. They had one of these in college where I went.
Did they have this at Old Dominion?
Yeah.
Yes. Any problems with that?
No.
Are they gonna have the sign flat in the building or have it kind of sticking out?
I don't know, I can ask the applicant.
Especially since you're showing which it's.
It's in the, it's in the historic overlay, so it'll have to go to the architectural review board for review. So the signage will have to go there. And encroachment, yes.
Any feedback from Downtown Civic League or?
Yep, so Downtown Norfolk Civic League sent us an email of support a couple days after they vote. Downtown Norfolk Council isn't sending their final recommendations until they get the final staff report packet that gets posted online next week. So hopefully we'll have something from them, not next week, but the week of the public hearing. Not to my knowledge, not since I've been here at least, no.
Restrictions?
They're waiting to go into Bugattis.
Staging area.
Yeah, I don't know if 3 o'clock, is that for their delivery purposes?
No, they actually are open to the public till 3 a.m.
Okay, the other businesses that way too?
Yes.
Is it a 3?
It is their model.
Yeah, that is their model.
Okay.
That's why they're called
That's why they're called
insomnia.
Oh, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
And there's no alcohol. It would be a different story if there was alcohol.
Yeah, no alcohol, no entertainment.
Sorry about my office, I'll be going there.
It'll be chubbier next time you see him.
Thank you, Rob.
Alright, I have the next one. Rip Rap Brewing Company, this is an existing business at 114 East 25th Street. They're coming in to allow them to operate with live entertainment because they're changing ownership. It's on the north side of East 25th Street between Monticello and Granby. The proposed use is consistent with Plan Norfolk 2030, which designates the site as commercial. It's zoned CC, community commercial, in this district and everywhere else in the city. You need a conditional use permit for the production of craft beverages and for live entertainment. Here's a picture of the site. Again, we have a new operator coming in and taking over the site. Nothing really about their establishment is changing, maybe a slight tweak in the hours. We'll go over that here in a second. Here's their floor plan. They're doing both, they are doing brewing on site as well as having the gathering space. Their capacity is listed as 114. They do have, they've explained to us that they're not gonna have more than 86 people when they have entertainment. 86 people would be the limit to when they would start needing security. And they'd explained to us that if they have security and have to hire a security company, it would take away their profit margin. So they've said that they're only gonna have up to 86 people when they're having entertainment. So for the brewery operations themselves, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week is what's existing. That would be the same as proposed. As of right now, they're for hours for entertainment and sale of alcoholic beverages, 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Friday, 1 p.m. to 2 a.m. Saturday, and 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. on Sunday. They're proposing only to be open from 10 to 10, 7 days a week. So we are seeing a reduction in the late hours and in earlier opening hours. They've also indicated some days they may not be open that early, but we told them to ask for everything, and if they don't end up being open on certain days, that's their decision. Their capacity is the same. You'll notice that the outdoor seats was listed as 15 in their previous CUP, and it's 0 seats outdoors. There's not enough space in that outdoor area to accommodate 15 people there, 15 seats. So it's standing area, so we just made them change that. That's why it looks different. And their entertainment is staying the same: live band, karaoke, comedian, poetry reading, and then game and trivia nights.
So how late is the entertainment, till 2 a.m.?
No, till 10. Their hours for entertainment and sale is going to be 10 to 10. Before they had it until 2 a.m. It's going to 10 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah. You'll notice that they also have one of those garage doors that we've seen at a couple of the places. We've added the condition that we did in the other ones, saying that they can't be, that those doors need to be closed by 9 p.m.
This is an example of one of the first few breweries
That Norfolk got, I think this was one of the first 3 or 4. And so 2 a.m., we really didn't know how to treat breweries at that
And
point.
I don't think
so-
they ever stay open that long.
No.
Especially on Sunday. And the gentlemen that are going in here, I think this is their third, right, Rob?
Yeah,
Their
I think
third
they have
one?
one in Hampton or Newport News as well.
So they obviously have experience from.
Yeah.
They're good, good guys.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Good afternoon. This is a conditional use permit renewal at 7936 Thompson Road. A location east side of Thompson Road, north of East Little Creek Road. This is in the East Ocean View neighborhood. Existing conditions are residential and the proposal to allow a duplex to continue operation as a short-term rental unit. Proposed use is consistent with Plan Norfolk 2030, designates the site as single-family suburban. Zoning is RC. In the RC district, a CUP is required for a vacation rental with more than 3 bedrooms. Here's the picture of the property. It is a flag lot, so the rear property to the right is the duplex. I did remind about the trash cans. They need to be at a plain view. He indicated he can comply with that. Host My Home will be used for property management, and no violations have occurred since the ordinance was granted. For neighborhood analysis, within 500 feet, 23% of residential parcels are single-family, and 16% of residential units are single-family. If approved, 3% of residential parcels and 2% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. And the East Ocean View Civic League voted not to oppose the application. Any questions?
All right. And real quick, I will answer one of your McDonald's questions. It has had that back access since at least 1990. So, all right. So this one, this applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to operate a vacation rental in a 3-bedroom single-family home on the southwest corner of 35th Street and Killam Avenue in the Kensington neighborhood. A short-term rental does not conflict with Plan Norfolk 2030, which designates the property as a multifamily corridor. Property is zoned single-family traditional. In SFT, all vacation rentals are required to have a CUP to operate. Here's a site for the proposed short-term rental. This home was built in 1917. It's been owned by the current owner since April of 2022. The applicant will be adding some street trees along the Killam Avenue frontage, which is kind of to the left side of that picture. The applicant's indicated the property will be self-managed and he will be living within 20 minutes of the property. Also note that the applicant currently lives in the house and he's mostly through the process of having a permit for a homestay because he plans on staying here and operating as a homestay until and if he is approved for this CUP, at which point he's found a place that he wants to relocate to. For the neighborhood analysis, within 500 feet, approximately 59% of residential parcels and 52% of residential units are single-family. All-inclusive, if this application were approved, approximately 1% of residential parcels and 0.6% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. Any questions?
Go back to the photos. Okay, so the green strip to the left of the fence, is that the right of way?
Yes,
So his property is at the fence?
I believe so.
So the trees he's gonna add are gonna be inside the fence line?
They're going to be outside as street trees, and he'll have to get a permit for that through Parks and Rec to put those.
Thanks.
And when did you make, say you're making a homestay?
He's currently a homestay, or almost. He's waiting on his business license approval, but he's got everything else to be a homestay, with the plan of staying here and operating that until he gets approved for this, at which point he'll relocate. No.
For all the commissioners, just so the nuance here, the homestay is it is a duplex, so Mr. Cortez stays in order to be eligible for a homestay, his
This one's single family.
residence, was that?
Single family.
Oh, single, I'm sorry. It's his primary residence, and he will be renting it out. That's the trigger for the homestay, and that is permitted by right based on the number of bedrooms here. So.
The 2 addresses, does it have 2 addresses because it's 2 lots?
Yes, it's 2 lots that are not put together. So when you look at this map, the lot on your left is the house, the lot right on the corner is the yard.
Okay, I've got the next two. This is a conditional use permit at 1338 West Ocean View Avenue. Location north side of West Ocean View Avenue between 13th View and 14th View Street. This is in the Willoughby neighborhood. Existing conditions are residential and proposals to allow a duplex to operate as a short-term rental unit. Proposed use is consistent with Norfolk 2030 designates as residential mixed. Zoning is RC. In the RC district, a CUP is required to operate a vacation rental with more than 3 bedrooms. Here's a picture of the property. On the left picture, you can see the shared driveway. They do have a shared driveway agreement with the rear property owner. Applicants do live in the downstairs unit and will be self-managing the property. They have experience with long-term rentals at the upstairs unit, and no violations have occurred with the current owner. For neighborhood analysis, within 500 feet, 40% of residential parcels are single-family and 15% of residential units are single-family. If approved, 7% of residential parcels and 3% of residential units within 500 feet will be short-term rentals. And the Willoughby Civic League voted to support the application. Any questions? Okay. Then I got the next one as well. Conditional use permit for short-term rental at 5021 Woolsey Street. Location southeast side of Woolsey Street between Azalea Garden Road and Souls Point Road. This is in the Sherwood Forest neighborhood. Existing conditions are residential. Proposals to allow a single-family home to operate a short-term rental unit. Proposed use is consistent with Norfolk 2030, designates the site as single-family traditional. Zoning is SF10. In the SF10 district, all vacation rentals, regardless of bedroom count, require a CUP to operate. Here's a picture of the property. Stork short-term rentals will be used for property management, and they have indicated they can comply with the 20-minute response time. Property meets all requirements, and no violations have been issued. Within 500 feet, 95% of residential parcels are single-family, and 89% of residential units are single-family. If approved, 1% of residential parcels and 1% of residential units within 500 feet would be short-term rentals. Questions on this one?
Any feedback from any local area?
No, Sherwood Forest Civic League's inactive. They hosted their own neighborhood meeting. I did reach out to the Estabrook Coleman Place, and I've not heard back yet. So,
And you said you did have, the applicant did have a
neighborhood meeting? Yes. It was in May of 2024. I did tell them, please reach out to your neighbors since it's been, some time. So, haven't heard back yet.
Okay. You said May or April?
May of 2024.
2020. Oh, last year. Okay. Thank you.
Anything else?
This applicant is Alessandro Stames. They're applying for a conditional use permit at 1138 Virgin Line Avenue. The site is located on the north side of Virgin Line Avenue between Warwick Avenue and an unimproved portion of Atlan Street. The proposal is to allow a duplex to operate as a short-term rental unit. The proposed use does not conflict with Plan Norfolk 2030, which designates this site as single-family traditional. The site is zoned SF10 and 60 DNL. The request is to allow conditional use permit for a short-term rental in a 4-bedroom duplex. Here is the site for the proposed short-term rental. The site was developed as a 4-bedroom duplex with 2 units and 2 bedrooms in each unit, built in 1966. The applicant has owned the property since August of 2023. The property will be managed by CXB Cleaning Services, LLC, with a 20-minute response time. And all STR carrying a minimum of 2 years, and the applicant would need to reapply to continue to operate as a short-term rental. Enforcement, there are currently no calls for service for the police over a year, no open zoning or building code violations, no current or recent unauthorized STR use at this facility. Neighborhood analysis, within 500 feet, 69% of the properties are single-family homes, 96 are residential units. If approved, 2% of single-family homes and 0.70% of residential units would be short-term rentals. Any questions for this one?
Yeah, did I hear something about the cleaning service is gonna be the 20-minute?
CXB Cleaning Services, yes, is the LLC.
Do they have? Oh, no, my question, thank you, Dr. Van, was, do we know if they have experience with managing short-term rentals? And I think that because the title suggests that they have this business model, I would just be curious to know if they have that.
I can ask them, I did do the math, they do have a 20-minute response time. I do believe they do more than just cleaning, but I can follow up with the applicant and ask that.
Okay.
Do they have other properties that they use?
I'm not sure.
You know, oftentimes we'll get, oh, it's my brother who lives next door, and we don't know he was experiencing it. And the cleaner probably knows more about the property. So, not what's specific there.
They arrive.
And I think, my next question, how was it occupied before? Was it like long-term rental, or did they live there themselves? I was just curious.
I'm not sure. Russ, do you know if they were occupying this unit before, or was it long-term rental?
I don't know offhand.
I can ask that as well.
Yeah.
And I think, just to clarify, Mr. Bateman, you bring up a good point. I think I wanted to make sure that it wasn't a surprise to the cleaning company that they were now managing the short-term rental.
Clean up an aisle too.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I misheard. Are they managing it, or are they just
The 20-minute contact.
They're the 20-minute contact.
Oh,
Different
not
than
managing.
managing.
I got you. So who is managing?
That's a bigger question.
Yes.
Okay. We'll find all that out.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. Text amendments.
Jeremy comes up, commissioners, we're in the year of text amendments. We're trying so hard to get through the work. No, this is even more like pointed on very specific, hyper-specific things we're trying to go through, as well as getting requests from the public for things that we just weren't ready for. So as we continue to have a lot of plates spinning and juggling balls at the same time, we're trying our best to get them through. So, but we do have another one that comes from a specific request.
So we're working with an owner-operator of a marina in the city that is interested in making some improvements to the site, and part of the business model they want to pursue is houseboats, both short and long-term rental, or ownership theoretically for the long-term, but potentially short-term rental as well. So they asked if they could, we didn't identify it as an allowable use in marina. There are people who live on houseboats of sort in our marinas, so probably codifying that side as a long-term, but then the short-term is not something that's covered at all. And so our thought was, we got the request, so our thought was to bring that to you all to see if you would like to initiate this one. Again, that decision would be something you would make at the public hearing in 2 weeks. And the second one is also brought to us by a property owner who has a small piece of property zoned industrial light. Not really very usable for much. It's a very small, narrow piece of property. Has interest in operating a very small scale, I believe it's 2-on-2 or 3-on-3 if it's small children, soccer. A specific type of model. Apparently it's a weighted ball, so it can't go very high up in the air. It's something that it is intended for a commercial purpose, that someone would run a training and a league out of this, and apparently it's very exciting to watch, and parents like to do it, and so it's a I don't know what else to do with this site, and this was someone brought it to me, and we would classify that as outdoor recreation facility, which is not permitted in the IL zoning district. Our approach would be to protect our industrial areas, to have this be a conditional use permit use. The applicant understands that and would not be, is not opposed to going through it. We could pair the two of them together if you're interested in initiating this amendment. And so again, we'd bring this back to you in a couple weeks for a request to official initiate.
not to get us down into the automobile, tire detail. Recreation facilities, do we have conditions typically
that?
We certainly have the general standards that would apply to all. I don't know what the standards are off the top of my head. I see Bobby's going to race to see what they would say. They're allowed in commercial generally, and so they wouldn't be allowed in industrial. That's not something we would typically want to take up a lot of land in industrial. I mean, this would be your batting cage type of facility, so your driving range, that type. So when we created that use in 2018, we wanted to make sure that we were not allowing it in industrial so that we would start gobbling up larger pieces of property. Yes, sir?
So it's a little field for soccer training and all. Would it have bathroom facilities, locker or anything? Or
Nope,
just a field
not the
for-
proposal that we've seen. Now, this is a general use, but the owner of the property owns other businesses in the area that are adjacent, so. It was an interesting idea. I know this particular property owner struggled with something to do with that property in the past, so we didn't think it was an inappropriate suggestion, so we thought we'd bring it
Do you
here.
know the dimensions of it?
I believe it's a 25-foot wide lot. It's very small.
So we couldn't put a dwelling on it necessarily?
I mean, it's own industrial, so that wouldn't be allowed. That wouldn't be permitted.
Okay.
I would suggest that should you be interested in initiating this, you would see for the public hearing, you would see both the amendment and the CUP request at the same hearing would be, I think that would be what would happen. So you would, I think, know a lot more about what's being proposed.
I just have a hard time understanding why we would, I mean, why would you not allow it, I guess,
I'm not seeing what,
So right now, there is no cap in size on the use, and so you could imagine a scenario where someone would buy a 2 or 3 acre industrial lot that was vacant, and our economic development staff is trying to market our industrial sites to get more businesses in there, and someone puts batting cages on it that maybe not be the highest and best use. So we've intentionally tried to protect our industrial uses from things that would not allow them to be used in their best way. And so this would be one of those uses that we would be more cautious with. So we would think we would only allow it by conditional use permit, so we could make sure that we have the opportunity to review that we're not taking up a piece of property that might have a better use.
and so, like you were saying before, so if we do this, is it a term? What if, does it go on forever being?
It would be.
But by
Conditional use permit, we would presumably we would put some conditions on there, limiting hours of operation. I don't know what other conditions we would put on a scenario like this, but we could limit how they would use it. But yes, it would run with land. It would be for.
One of the terms of the conditional use permit was a sunset, so you put 2-year or sometimes 5-year limits on short-term rental CUP specifically because you worry about somebody coming along and taking over that use and not responsible or reliable. So if this conditional use permit were granted and it were capped at 10 years or 15 years, then it would not be grandfathered in perpetuity.
Yeah, see, I just don't know enough to know whether or not we should put it, but you guys do, and so recommend to us what?
I don't know that we know enough yet either, so we're just trying to investigate it at this point.
Well, and keep in mind, this isn't pertaining to that particular site. This is any IL throughout the city. So not to focus on that particular applicant.
Oh, that's important to know.
Yeah, that is.
So right now, we're bringing forward, we have a request for a specific property, but a note I haven't told you the address or shown you where it is. Right now, we have the request in both of these cases to amend the ordinance to allow the opportunity to ask. So what you would see next month or the month after, depending on the timing, we would like to bring them to you together. We would offer that to the applicant, that you would be able to see both at the same time. Not a requirement, we could bring them separately, but I think that's something that we would probably try and do in a situation like this. So maybe you could investigate a little.
To say no if it doesn't work.
Correct.
Or we could say yes to the text amendment and no to the applicant.
Absolutely.
Well, and you have the ability within here to put conditions that limit the size of the
Absolutely.
property too, so that you don't get large areas being used for.
The conditional use permit, we could put similar as we were talking earlier about the auto lot size maximums or minimums. You can put something like that on, only allowed in an IL on a lot smaller than certain size. That could be something that could be done as well.
And I like that just because you were saying this lot is so small, it's probably not something that's marketable to economic development, so we should have that opportunity that we could use this for another use.
Thank you. And I think that concludes our preview, so thank you everyone for that. Now, let's get to our discussions. First is consent agenda. Did anyone see anything that would be appropriate for this consent agenda? I was thinking about that short-term rental renewal. You think 4, 5, and 6?
We,
I know, the left-hand turn. I had it on mine. So, looks like we're hearing 4, 5, and 6.
Number 5, Rip Rappering does have live entertainment. Typically, we don't do live entertainment on consent. Or entertainment.
It's up to you.
it's up to,
It's your
the
call.
commission, we're just
wanted to
providing you,
point out,
background.
Not changing anything but the hours.
And the operator. They would also get a 2-year expiration, being the first time they're doing entertainment in Norfolk.
Right.
I mean, they run breweries in other localities too, so they've got
Yeah, I'm just thinking,
experience, so.
if they were adding entertainment, I would think differently, but the fact that it's already adding entertainment.
Back in the hours now.
Yeah,
Hours are better too.
That's key.
yeah, hours are better too.
I mean, it stays on there until if there's public comment, then we
Yeah.
take it off the list.
Okay.
And which was the renewal thing?
Number 6.
So it's, yeah.
Oh, that's number 6, okay. Gotcha.
And now you reminded, for Mama's Kitchen, I know they're removing, they're adding alcohol or something?
Yes, they're requesting they're requesting to have alcohol sales.
Okay, they didn't have alcohol sales at first.
I think they had it at the previous location, through the restaurant zoning certificate, they had it at the previous location. But this one, they're new, this is their new location.
Gotcha.
But again, if the consent agenda is up to the commission, if you feel,
Dark for some time.
yes, the current location has been dark for some time. I think it had a daycare in it
Yeah,
previously.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's been working on it for a long time.
I'm having like the same logic as Rip Rap, like there's already been offering no alcohol, they're not adding anything else to it, they're not adding entertainment.
So I'm hearing 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm not hearing any argument against it.
Yeah, no, not really an argument against it, but I think
We do a lot of restaurants with alcohol, and I don't think we've ever put any on unless it was just adding something in the same location. So I don't know if we're starting something, then we.
That's the first time that we had a restaurant who was already serving alcohol, just moving locations.
Right, the
All the
location
other
change is the
ones
big
that either added alcohol or added entertainment, which is just a concern. If you have the existing restaurant from Norfolk, just moving around the corner, that's been serving alcohol, I have no reason to think they would do anything different. Operationally, there are no violations before.
I can do that.
But that's a good point, you wanna be consistent.
So no violations, Civic League said okay, all those checks, correct?
Yeah. No, same operator. Joining this month.
Yeah.
Yeah, same operator.
Is everything the same, right? Okay.
Yeah, everything's the same.
I was checking in with her.
Yeah.
With Sherry and Adam. Are we doing, or how we doing? Okay. All right, so consent agenda 3, 4, 5, and 6. Thank you. Next for discussion is historic district guidelines.
Elizabeth is just bringing up something just very quickly, just to give an update to the planning commission on some of the work the architectural review board is undertaking. Mr. Pendleton, I'm sure you're fully briefed on this one, so.
So as Bobby says, I'm gonna make this pretty brief, but we are very excited about this initiative, and you all may hear about it, so we wanted to bring it to your attention before things really got kicked off. Just to give you a sense of where we are, so our current design guidelines, which are the major tool that staff and the ARB use when reviewing applications for certificates of appropriateness, so for the approval in historic districts, they were written in 2012. The ARB itself, as it is today, was established in 2014. So prior to that, we had different types of design review committee structures, but as it stands today, that structure was put in 2014. And then we became what's called a certified local government in 2015. That's a designation from the state Department of Historic Resources and National Park Service saying that Norfolk has a preservation program that meets national standards. So we qualify for certain funding because we have this designation and because our guidelines and the structure of our Architectural Review Board meet certain criteria. So we've had about 13 years pass, and now we're getting ready to update our guidelines. A lot has happened in 13 years. You all are very well acquainted with that going through the comp plan update, but a lot of exciting things have happened in the preservation world, and a lot of things especially related to building materials and to current issues that we face today, like resilience, flood adaptation. We've had a lot of really great new guidance from National Park Service on how to do that appropriately in historic districts. We're looking at two major kind of buckets of goals. We've got content goals and we have some technical goals. So content-wise, we want to just, what are the best practices today? We really want to bring that into what we have as our guidance. We think that as while these are regulatory for parts of the city, we know that there's a lot of older buildings throughout Norfolk that may want to use these as a reference. We also want to make sure that we have everything. We know that we're missing some guidance on certain features, certain resource types. 1950s, 60s, and 70s are all historic now. So our guidelines do not anticipate that. And we want to make sure that whatever changes we make, we maintain that certified local government designation so that any changes we make are still going to meet those standards that the national program has. Technically, we really want to improve the user friendliness of our document. Like a lot of things from that era, it's just kind of a scanned PDF. We want to make something that people want to look at, so maybe they will look at it more. And there's a lot of references and contextual information that are just outdated. This is before our current zoning ordinance, so we still reference Chapter 9 that has not existed for a good 6 years. And we want to make sure that we make this native to the digital platform, so hyperlinks, easy to use. That's really our main focus, is we want people to find this accessible. The timeline that we're looking at, right now in the spring, we're calling this the state of the guidelines, where we're just reviewing what do we have. We're going to kick this off with a survey for our residents and property owners to say, do you know we have guidelines? Do you know where to find them? Do you use them? What is clear and unclear? We're going to take that information and we're going to have same conversations with the Architectural Review Board, start doing some drafting in the summer and fall with the hope of getting it all wrapped up by end of calendar year, beginning of early next calendar year. Because we are a bit constrained by that CLG designation, we have some room for creativity and interpretation, but there's not going to be a whole new thing that's going to come out of this from that perspective in terms of the regulations. We've identified some initial stakeholder groups that we will begin reaching out to at the end of this month, and in June, we already have a couple dates picked out for our first public meetings in June to be held at the Slover. And we're looking at some in-person opportunities online and mail to connect with people in our district to make sure that they're aware of this so that they can get their voices heard and they can get their concerns about current guidelines to us. So this is how the ARB will be involved. We're doing working sessions once a month at their meetings, reviewing and commenting in the approval process. You all will be part of that approval process, and you will also have an opportunity to see these. And these are the next steps that the ARB and staff are working on right now. So we're just, again, reviewing what we have, continuing to do some precedent research with some of our sister localities, and where other people are doing exciting things, especially related to coastal resilience and preservation throughout the country. But if you have any questions about this now, I'm happy to answer them. We are just getting this kicked off. So we are, like I said, we're very excited about this.
Well, I like the staff, they're wearing capes, and I think that's very important. Thank you very much. Okay, director's comments? Thank you.
Normally I would do council update, there's no council actions to provide an update on. Council this coming week will not have any planning items on it due to the budget getting reviewed and adopted. So most of the planning items from your April agenda will be on the following meeting. So if you happen to hear anything from any applicants, that's what has happened. The budget kind of took over the normal first meeting where the easy stuff goes. So, but other than that, that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Tom. Comments from commissioners? Dr. Bailey.
So I did hear concerns about ADUs from some residents. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Really, not having the community, I guess, engagement or something like that. I think it was the Larchmont area. So I thought you guys may want to reach out.
It's part of what we're working on. I think we've just received back the graphics that we requested to help explain it to the public.
Can I hear, what was the question?
Accessory dwelling units, there's a text amendment, yeah, the ADUs.
ADUs, yeah.
So, we're working on that, we'll get that to neighborhoods, and again, we'll do the roadshow to answer any questions. But thank you for that, appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments?
I'm not sure the rest of the commission saw, but I guess there was an article that went out earlier this week about a housing commission that the council is coming up with. I know it's rather early, so I'm not sure how that's gonna impact us, impact the comp plan, but I'm assuming that's all gonna be down the road.
It will be, it's, the way the ordinance, or no, the resolution was written is that, the manager will assign city staff to it. I've been already assigned to either myself or someone to be a part of that with housing. So we will participate in discussions, and I'll bring any information to the commission as is pertinent. And hopefully some of the commissioners may, if you get it, they do appointments, Adam, for the housing?
Yeah, it's gonna be a point.
Already?
It'll be like eight spots.
Yeah, I don't remember if they did the appointments to all of it. I know that they gave to the super ward council members the chair, right, the leading the group. So I wasn't sure if they had appointed folks yet. So
This is a housing commission?
the housing commission, yes.
And what is the purpose?
So they're basically trying to take council, NRHA, and community development and kind of reconcile those three main groups. They actually come with an action plan to how we're going to address whatever type of housing.
It's in middle.
Deficit or whatever
Yeah.
it was.
Whether it's market or affordable, homeownership rents, it's supposed to like actually be an action group.
That's part of it.
Yeah, everything's on the table at this point.
Oh, sure. Go ahead, Dr. Bailey.
Totally different thing.
Oh, well, before you go, you're obviously gonna share with us more information as it comes out.
Yes, nothing's been stood up yet. I just know that I've been pointed at to say attend. So we'll figure out what that means in the future as we provide support and any of the work that the commission has done already as you know, you guys have done a workshop, talked about your goals for the city moving forward. We can share that as part of that information as we move forward.
Also, the where it ties into the comp plan, how that is being reviewed. But it would be, a sad situation if they came up with something that is converse to our,
Right.
so.
I felt like the purpose was to coordinate, so leaving us out would, it would achieve that.
Stack stakeholders to actually be on the, supposed to be like 8 spots. So whether it's developers or, I'm not sure if anybody on the planning commission or any other boards would be up there, but it's like they're trying to identify certain folks to take those slots.
Thank you. Dr. Van.
So, I've been on this commission for over a year and I'm still confused about many things, okay? One of them is like when you're sharing something with us, for example, this industrial light, is there any way that, and maybe you guys are okay with it, but I mean, I find myself not really understanding the area that we're talking about. So I'm wondering, is there a way to show something, so we don't lose what we're talking about sometimes? I see Susan going, yes.
Yeah. A map where all of the IL districts are.
Yeah, I don't know if everybody else already knows, but I don't.
No, that's helpful.
And so I'm kinda wondering if we make a decision not really knowing how we affect other areas, or, I don't know if I'm saying this right.
No, that's fair. Yeah, we'll, with that note, we'll make sure to provide a map for, in your Dropbox, and then also have it available before you do the,
Presenting
Yes.
something.
no, that's a good point.
So let me just back up. For example, the last meeting we had, for the tattoos by right. I really didn't understand in the beginning that was downtown until I asked, and then found out that it was downtown. But then I don't know how many other areas in this whole map did that affect. I mean, we got it pulled out of downtown, but was it everywhere else too?
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
should
I
have
don't
had a
know.
map of all of the districts. I got it, yeah. Yeah.
So that's just a simple thing, but if we kind of
Makes
knew
a
what we were doing this about sometimes.
Big picture, how
Yeah.
this is gonna affect.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
That's-
That's a great suggestion, thank you. Any other,
I'm
you have
sorry, I do
something?
have one
No,
more
you
thing.
go right ahead.
Next Friday, there's through the Office of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, they're hosting the second to see or not CUP workshop for potential business owners and anyone wanting to work through the process for conditional use permits. Susan will be the star presenter for that, and we'll have staff available to answer people's questions. That's at the Slover. It was emailed to you, Susan sent it to you. I personally meant to print it out. I forgot because I got caught up in something else before I came up here. But we'll make sure to again send it out just for a reminder for the commission, and share it with your networks as necessary, please. We want to provide the opportunity for people to learn the process. We found the 75 or so people that participated last time found it very helpful to them to understand why these things happen, and it's not just a city bureaucrat just saying you can't do anything, right? And so we're trying our best to get the message out to let people understand so that we can share kind of how the regulations work and why they exist. So
Did you say 75 participated last?
I think it was between 60 to 75. It was somewhere around there.
That's a good turnout.
It's a good crowd.
I wasn't sure how the session would actually go, but there was a presentation at the beginning, kind of introduces. It'd be great to have a business owner that speaks highly of the process. That can basically, maybe just be an added speaker to say, I know this is overwhelming, but I did it. Here's what we just need to do.
Yeah, that's good for you.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Somebody like, I don't know, Bobby, have I had a good experience? No.
Mixed bag.
Somebody mentioned to me recently that they've had a good experience, and made me start thinking, I need to start sharing that. And we need to share it, because all we hear is the
Negative. I will say that we do have a video that was posted by Communications. They made a very big deal of highlighting 2 businesses and shared it far and wide. Thank you, Andrew, for the high sign on that one to remind me. But we essentially kind of highlighted, I think it was Sour Street Pizza and
It's the coffee shop in Railroad, I can't think of the name of the coffee shop in the Railroad District.
Freight House.
Drawing a blank. Freight House.
Freight House Coffee Shop. And so they talked, it was like a real quick snippet talking about the process and how it works. So we're trying our best to get that information out there so that people aren't kind of overwhelmed just by hearing it. Because again, it does get into if you're, again, going to Dr. Van's point, if you're not familiar with what it is, you think it's this nebulous thing that is controlled by the staff, when it's really just a legal process, a legislative process you need to go through to meet that requirement. So, but no, that's a good point. Well, we need to send that back out and maybe make the rounds. Yes, share the video, and the video would be good too, share the video, so.
Any other questions, comments, answers?
Where are we with our event calendar? Cause I was jotting down all the dates for all the different things. It'd be nice for us to still have.
I've been trying to figure out a digital version to that, but we might as well just create a document that just has it for you guys and just pop them in there. So, is everyone accessing your Dropbox?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you are, then we'll try to put together a calendar for that and just drop it in there, so.
Like some of the ARB stuff she mentioned, they're putting
Yes.
together calendar of things. I feel like sometimes I just can't get enough on my calendar and I miss stuff, and I know that I want to be able
We'll see if we can, thank you. I don't know who I'm gonna attach to that. Might be Jesse over there. So to put together a calendar with all these dates on it and so that it's available to you. But yes, there's a lot of things coming up that are pretty significant for the department, so
busy.
it is, it's very busy. And we're trying to get it in before the main summer season, so. We'll make sure to Dr. Lee.
Okay, looks like we're adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.